Hey guys, how are you all? I hope you all are doing well. Today we're going to see an amazing what-if story, but before we start, it's just a humble request that if you're new here, please subscribe because it actually motivates me a lot to post more. Also, the stories on my channel are fully written by me, so if you have any suggestions for what-if stories, please let me know below the comment section. Now, without any further delay, let's start. What if Rimuru Tempest reached to the new level of divinity? Rimuru stared at the last page of the manga and felt his core sink. Across the low table, Veldora slapped his hand down and leaned forward, eyes shining. You see, that twist was genius. You cannot complain about that twist. Rimuru lifted the book and waved it at him. They killed the mentor for drama and then pulled out a new secret power in the same fight. That is not genius, that is lazy. Shuna knelt to his side with a tray. The scent of fresh tea and steamed sweets, cutting through the stale paper smell of the manga, towered around them. She smiled the way she always did when they started this kind of argument. Please do not shout in the office, Lord Rimuru. Lord Veldora, the civil department, is working next door. We are discussing important art, Shuna, Veldora said. He sat cross-legged, arms folded, trying to look like a wise dragon and not a tall man drowning in mixed weekly volumes. The readers crave emotion. If the teacher does not die at least once, where is the pain? Where is the growth? Normal people can grow without a funeral per volume, Rimuru said. Also, you spoiled 3 chapters in one breath. Again, you wonder why no one wants to read at your pace. Inside his mind, a calm voice spoke. You swore you would stop lending him unfinished series. Rimuru pressed a hand to his face. I know, he muttered. Veldora blinked. You know what? Not you talking to CEO. Rimuru dropped his hand and picked up his cup. The tea was still hot, the steam soft against his face. The little things still helped him feel grounded, even after everything he had become. Shuna smoothed her apron and adjusted a stack of reports near his elbow. If you're done debating tragic mentors, these need your seal by evening. The trade routes to Blumend, the new housing plans, and a complaint from Gobta about someone stealing his lunch again. Rimuru eyed the stack and sighed. Seal, please tell me these can wait until after I fix Veldora's taste in fiction. The tasks can be completed within the next 4 hours without harming any vital schedule. Her tone was as flat as ever, yet he had known her long enough to hear the tiny trace of indulgence under it. See, even our ultimate skill agrees, he said. I have time to teach this shut in about pacing. Veldora jabbed a finger at him. I am not a shut-in. I am a sage who has seen the dawn of worlds. My taste is refined beyond mortal understanding. You spent the last week rereading the same sports manga because you liked the snacks they drew. That artist respects food, Veldora said. You of all rulers should appreciate that. Shuna covered her mouth, shoulders shaking with quiet laughter. The office felt warm, the afternoon sun from the window turning the paper a little yellow at the edges. Voices and footsteps drifted up from the street outside, the steady life of Tempest going on, as usual. Rimuru let himself sink into that mood for a breath. Stupid arguments. Paperwork he would complain about, then finish anyway. For a moment, he could pretend the words like Demon Lord and Ultimate Skill and Godslayer were just dramatic titles from another story. The air shimmered. A tiny glowing figure shot through the slightly open window, trailing dust and glittering motes that stuck to the shelves. Rimuru, we have a problem, a huge problem, a massive, impossible problem. Ramiris crashed into his chest, bounced, and ended up hovering in front of his face. Her little wings buzzed so fast they blurred. Shuna jumped back, balancing the tray against her hip. Veldora jerked to his feet, tea sloshing over the rim of his cup. Rimuru caught Ramiris with both hands before she could dart into the manga stack. Hey, slow down, take a breath. I do not need to breathe. I am a spirit, she yelled. Listen to me, the labyrinth is wrong. The warmth in the room slipped a little. Rimuru felt it in the way the tiny hairs on his human arm rose, even though his real body did not need that reaction. He set Ramiris gently on the table. Wrong how a new monster spawned, a break in the barrier. Ramiris shook her head fast enough to make herself wobble. No, I checked all that. It is not an invasion. The labyrinth made a new floor by itself, a secret floor under floor 100. Veldora frowned, the playful spark in his eyes dimming. There is no floor under the final one. That is the whole point. It is the bottom. I know that I built it, Ramira shouted. Her voice cracked from the effort. That is why I am here. It should not exist. But it does. My control panel shows a space that was not there yesterday, floor 0. I did not name that a system prompt name that I swear I did not push anything. Rimuru felt Seal shift. It was not sound, not movement, just a slight sharpening in the back of his mind, as if every stray thought had been pulled in line. Manual cross, check complete. The labyrinth map displays an unregistered layer below the known structure. Label floor 0 is not for my side. He stared at Ramiris. You tried going in. Ramiris hugged her knees close to her chest. The bravado slipped, and the tiny fairy looked small, even by her normal size. I tried to open it. The door formed by itself for a moment. I heard something, then I closed it again. I did not go through. I am not stupid. Shuna set the tray down on the other side of the table and moved closer. Lord Rimuru, should I call Benimaru and the others? Rimuru shook his head. Not yet. If this is nothing, I do not want to drag the entire top group away from their work. Veldora, you love mystery dungeons, right? Veldora straightened, shoulders broad, expression settling into something between pride and unease. There is no labyrinth mystery that can oppose the storm dragon. I will accompany you, of course. Rimuru caught the slight tightness at the corner of his mouth. Veldora was not actually afraid of stairs or hidden rooms, but his aura stirred when Ramiris said the word system. Old memories for an old being. You're not going alone, Ramiris said. It is my labyrinth. I am coming too. And crashing into more things on the way, Rimuru said, but he gave her a small smile. Fine, you guide, we investigate. If it is a bug, Seal will figure it out, and we patch it if it is more than that. We back off and make a full plan. He looked at Shuna. Hold the reports for now. Tell Benimaru that we're taking a quick look at the labyrinth if we are not back by evening. He can assume it is serious and call everyone. Shuna bowed. Her eyes stayed on him for a half-second longer than normal, like she wanted to say something else, but then she stepped back and moved toward the door. As she left, the office quieted again. The manga, the tea, the paperwork stayed where they were. An unfinished life paused mid-page. Rimuru rose and rolled his shoulders. His body did not actually get stiff, but pretending it did helped him feel normal. Seal spoke again, calm as always. I advise caution. The readings from this new floor are not consistent with known magical patterns. Dangerous level, he asked and sighed. Unknown. He did not like that answer. Seal prided herself on knowing everything inside his domain. Unknown meant something outside the script they had been following for a long time. He forced a grin anyway. Let us go before Gopta steals all the dinner portions again. Veldora snorted. That goblin has courage. I will deal with him later. Ramiris darted to his shoulder and plopped down there, grabbing a lock of his hair to steady herself. Move fast. I feel weird just knowing that thing is attached to my labyrinth. It is like having a ghost room under your house. Comforting image. Thanks, Rimuru said. By the time they reached the labyrinth control chamber, Ramiris had stopped shouting and started chewing on her thumb instead. The chamber lay deep under Tempest, carved in smooth stone with glowing lines of magic that traced the walls and floor. Crystal panels hovered in the air, filled with shifting maps of every floor, lines of tiny script marking monster placements, traps, safe rooms. Normally the room hummed. The many cores that powered the labyrinth sang quietly in his senses, a network of constant motion. Today there was a thin edge of static under the hum, like sand under a smooth surface. Rimuru stepped closer to the main panel. Ramiris flitted off his shoulder and darted to a console shaped like a flower. With a wave of her hand, a wide, circular map expanded in front of them. Floors 1 to 100 appeared as stacked rings of light. Under the lowest ring, a new shape hung, disconnected yet clearly there. A dark circle with a single label in plain script. Floor 0. Veldora folded his arms again. All jokes gone now. That presence was not here before. Rimuru felt it too, now that he focused. A patch of absence at the edge of his awareness, like a blank spot where his perception should have found the usual flow of energy. Seal, can you scan it? I'm scanning. A pause. Magical density reads as nearly 0. Space is present, but the usual informational layer returns fragmented data. I cannot see through the barrier. You cannot see it, Rimuru asked in his mind. At all, I can confirm the space exists. Its inner rules are hidden. That word again. Hidden. Unknown. Things that even his supposed all-seeing skill could not pin down. He looked at Veldora and Ramiris. We check once. If it feels wrong, we leave. I mean, we are not here to show off. We are here to make sure Tempest does not have a time bomb under it. Veldora gave a single sharp nod. Agreed. I have no interest in repeating mistakes from the past. Ramiris muttered. Good, because I am not responsible for cosmic bugs. Only fun ones. She reached out, trying to keep her fingers from shaking, and tapped the dark circle on the map. A soft chime rang through the chamber. At the far end, a round doorway that usually led to the entrance of the first trial flickered. The rune above it shifted. The number that usually read 1 vanished, replaced by a pale symbol that was neither number nor letter. Just a line of static frozen in place. The air cooled. The glow from the walls shrank in his eyes, as if the light no longer wanted to reach that door. Rimuru swallowed. Great, that looks inviting. We can establish a recall anchor before you proceed, Seal said. I can pull your main body back to the surface if your core experiences critical damage. His first instinct was to say he did not need that. That no unknown room could threaten a being who devoured gods. Instead, he nodded. Do it better safe than sorry. A gentle ring echoed inside his mind. Anchor confirmed. Rimuru stepped through the portal first. Veldora followed close behind, his aura curled tight around his human form. Ramiris slipped in after them, small but burning with nervous light. The feeling of transit was short. No dramatic spinning, no vertigo. 1 step and the control chamber was gone. Floor 0 greeted them with silence. The ground under his feet was flat and smooth, neither stone nor metal. It looked gray, but the gray shifted when he tried to focus, as if tiny symbols constantly appeared and faded across the surface. The air was cold without any wind. No scent of damp earth, no hint of mana, no echo of monsters waiting behind the walls. There was only a slow press on his ears, the kind of pressure that made people want to swallow or yawn. Rimuru tested the air with his senses. Normally he felt the labyrinth as a living maze, full of pulsing nodes and roaming creatures. Here, reaching out was like trying to see with his eyes closed in a room painted in blank white. Ramiris, he said quietly. Did you ever make anything like this? She hovered close to his shoulder again, her wings beating slower than usual. No, the layout does not match my style. I use fun things like lava and spikes and wind tunnels. This is just empty. Veldora shifted his weight, boots scraping the strange floor. The sound seemed far away, like it came through a layer of water. This place does not feel like a dungeon. It feels like the space between things. Rimuru glanced at him. The dragon looked calm at first glance, but Rimuru knew him well enough to see the tension in the line of his jaw. You know something? Veldora did not answer right away. His gaze moved around the corridor, taking in the smooth walls, the faint and wrong light that had no clear source. Long before this world took shape, there were currents that did not carry life, he said at last. All power moved through them, and anything that stayed too long turned into dust that forgot it had ever been alive. This feels close to that. So, you're saying this place eats things? Veldora gave one tight nod. It eats information. That is worse. A dragon can grow back flesh. A dragon cannot grow back memories it does not know it lost. Ramiris made a strangled noise. Why do you say things like that out loud, Veldora? You will curse us. Rimuru rubbed his arms. His slime core did not need warmth, but he still missed it. Already asked Seal for an emergency pull. If anything feels wrong, we run. You hear me, we are not here to prove a point. Fine, Ramiris muttered. But please walk in front anyway. He snorted despite himself. Of course I will walk in front. I am the leader. Also the most expendable one, since I have a recall anchor and auto everything. Not everything, Seal said. There was a hint of annoyance in her tone. Please do not assume invincibility. Relax, I will treat this seriously, he told her. You can complain about my jokes later. They moved forward. The corridor did not twist or branch. It stretched straight into a dim, open space ahead. Every few steps, The pressure on his ears rose again, then dropped, as if something far away was taking slow breaths through the entire floor. Rimuru glanced back after a while. The doorway they had used was still visible, but it seemed smaller than it should, a pale ring in the distance. The glow from the control chamber side did not spill in. He forced his eyes forward. Criticizing panel layouts for RIMURU was one thing. Letting fear of a blank hallway get into his head was another. Still, he kept one hand a little raised, ready to summon power if needed. There were no monsters, no traps, not even dust. The floor did not hold marks from their steps. It was as if the moment they passed, the space behind them reset, deleting every sign they had ever been there. Veldora noticed it too. "Look back once," he said quietly. "Then stop looking. The human brain does not like this kind of thing." "You are speaking from experience?" Rimuru asked. "Too much experience," Veldora replied. RIMURU stayed close, eyes wide, her usual chatter reduced to soft curses under her breath. The corridor opened into a chamber soon after. The room was round and wide, its ceiling hidden in a gray haze. The walls were the same, not quite solid material as the hallway. At the center stood a single structure, reaching up toward the unseen top. Rimuru stopped at the edge of the room. The thing in the middle was not a pillar in any normal sense. From one angle, it looked like a tall rectangular block. When he shifted his head slightly, the edges broke apart into smaller shards, then slid back into a solid form. Lines of light and darkness crawled across the surface, then froze, then inverted. It hurt to look at for too long, not in the eyes, but in the back of his mind. "Seal, any closer guess?" Her answer came slower than he liked. "I detect a dense cluster of informational particles that do not obey the usual pattern. The structure is older than the world around it. The style does not match Veldanava or RIMURU. Older than the world," Rimuru said out loud before he could stop himself. RIMURU grabbed the side of his collar. "Stop saying things like that, too. It is bad enough. I can feel it." Veldora stepped up beside him. His voice dropped even more. "This reminds me of the ruins that existed before the Star Dragon made this reality. Back when there were only fragments and rules without form. I do not like that it is here, in your city, under your people." Rimuru felt his chest tighten. He had worked hard to make Tempest safe, to turn this land into a place where people from all kinds of races could live without fear. Hearing that some unknown relic from before the world itself now sat under his feet did not sit well with him. "Time to figure out if this thing is just ugly decoration or an actual threat," he said. Seal spoke. "I recommend distance. Touching unknown structures that predate the system is not safe." He hesitated. He knew she was right. He also knew they could not just leave this thing here on blind faith. "What if we treat it like any other strange core?" he said in his head. "I touch it lightly. You monitor. If it tries to eat me, you pull us out." There was a long silence from her side. "That plan is suboptimal, but possible. He took a slow breath he did not need. "Veldora, cover RIMURU. If I drop, you drag her back to the door and let Seal handle the rest." Veldora bristled. "You assume I will run." "I assume you will pick your battles," Rimuru said. "We do not know the rules here. I want you at full strength if we need to blow a hole in reality on the way out." That, at least, appealed to the dragon. Veldora nodded once and stepped back, placing himself between RIMURU and the rest of the room. His aura folded close to his skin, ready to explode outward at the first sign of danger. Rimuru walked toward the monolith. Each step made the air thicker. It was a slow increase, but noticeable. His limbs did not grow heavy in the physical sense. Instead, his thoughts felt like they were moving through syrup. Seal stayed silent, but she did not feel distant. She was a constant line in his mind, steady and solid. He stopped right in front of the structure. Up close, the surface was not smooth at all. Tiny squares, circles, and jagged shapes flickered in and out of view, like writing that refused to hold a single form. Some marks looked almost like letters from the human worlds he remembered. Others were shapes he did not have names for. "Hello there, strange world eating bug," he muttered. "Please be friendly." RIMURU squeaked behind him. "Do not talk to it like that." Rimuru lifted his hand. His fingers looked small against the constantly shifting surface. For a moment, he remembered his old human hand, the first time he had touched a keyboard, the tiny thrill of connection even then. He pushed that aside and pressed his palm to the monolith. The world went silent. It had already been quiet, but this was different. There was no echo of his own thoughts, no sound of breath, no hum of magical flow. The pressure on his ears vanished, then returned in a sharp spike that made his vision white out for a blink. A voice that was not Seal spoke. Notice Administrator found. The words did not come from outside. They burned directly into his mind, letters hanging in a field of static. For a second, each letter broke into pieces, then slotted back into place in the wrong order, then corrected itself again. Notice Administrator found. He tried to pull his hand back. His body did not answer. Rimuru, Seal called. Her voice sounded far away. Core Link is being flooded. The white glare behind his eyes shifted. He saw lines, endless thin lines of light and dark stretching out in all directions. Some of them moved around him, curving as if avoiding his presence. Others ran straight through him without resistance. He did not feel pain. He felt stripped down, as if something was peeling away labels from everything he was, checking each one, then pressing some back on and throwing others into a void he could not see. Alert! The foreign voice broke again. Notice new access pattern detected. The static crept closer, crawling along the lines toward him. Seal! He pushed, trying to send thought through the thick emptiness. Now will be a good time for that pull. I'm trying to anchor you. Even she sounded strained. Then something snapped. The white lines shattered like glass hit by a hammer. The static scattered into a million points and vanished. Rimuru dropped. He did not remember falling. He only felt the impact a moment later, stone against his back, hands on his shoulders, someone yelling his name. The chamber snapped back into place. The gray haze, the monolith, the cold air. Veldora leaning over him, eyes wide, Ramiris clinging to his sleeve with tears at the corner of her eyes. He sucked in a breath that actually hurt in his chest. His heart, or whatever passed for one now, hammered hard. Still here, he croaked. That is good news. Veldora let out a rough breath. You fool, you were frozen for hours. Rimuru blinked. Hours that cannot be, right? It felt like a minute at most. Ramiris shook her head so hard she almost fell. We tried shaking you, we tried, yelling. Seal would not answer me. The labyrinth clock says 3 hours past the control chamber confirmed it. I nearly had a heart attack, and I do not even have one. Seal spoke, closer now, but still with that thin edge he did not like. From my perspective, you were unresponsive for approximately 1 second. Rimuru sat up slowly. His head swam, not with pain, but with the ghost of that static, the memory of lines that were not space and not time, pressing around him. 1 second for you, he said inside. 3 hours for them. Correct. Time records do not match. The system log shows a skipped segment. Veldora frowned. You're talking to Seal. Yeah, Rimuru said. She says I only dropped for a blink on her side. Ramiris looked between them. How is that even fair? We thought you were dead. I'm not that easy to delete, Rimuru tried to joke. His voice came out weaker than he wanted. Still, I am sorry. I did not mean to scare you. Veldora sat back, the tension in his shoulders shifting into anger to hide the fear. Next time you listen when someone who remembers pre-world ruins tells you not to touch the creepy relic, noted, Rimuru said. He pushed himself to his feet. His legs did not shake, yet the room felt a bit lopsided for a second. The monolith still stood in the center of the chamber. Its surface was quiet now. No visible static, no shifting symbols, just a dull gray block that could have been any monument in any old ruin. Rimuru did not trust it one bit. Seal, did we gain anything at all from that contact? A pause. Yes. I intercepted part of the protocol that spoke to you. It identified you as an administrator. However, the term does not match our understanding of your prior authority. Additionally, I detected a signature that matches the voice you know as the announcement of the world. The world itself talked to me through that thing, he asked. Correct. But the message structure was damaged. Ramiris hugged herself. So the world made a secret floor under my labyrinth, installed a cursed rock inside it, and used it to poke around inside your soul. That is what I am hearing. Something used the same channel as the world voice, at least, Rimuru said. We need to get out of here before it tries again. For once, no one argued with him. They turned back toward the corridor. Rimuru could not shake the feeling of eyes on his back, even though there were no monsters here, no guards, nothing. Just that structure, silent and patient. The walk back felt shorter, or maybe he was just too tense to notice the distance. This time he did not look at the floor behind them. He did not want to see if their footsteps were still missing. The doorway to the control chamber shone ahead, a clean ring of familiar light. As he stepped through, the pressure on his ears lifted. The hum of the labyrinth cores came rushing back, along with the faint scent of metal and oil from the machinery Ramiris used. Ramiris sagged in the air and then sat on top of one of the crystal panels as if her legs could not keep going. Veldora rolled his shoulders, letting his aura flow a little looser, the way a person might stretch after standing too still. Rimuru stood in the doorway for a second longer. He glanced back. The rune over the portal flickered, then settled back into the usual number for the first challenge. The map adjusted as Ramiris slapped buttons with quick, angry motions. "I'm sealing it," she muttered. "I'm sealing that floor so hard, even I will forget how to open it. I do not care if that breaks some cosmic etiquette." Seal spoke in his mind. "That may delay future contact, but it will not erase the connection fully. The system has marked you." "Yeah, I guessed," he answered. He tried to keep his tone light as he looked at his two companions. "Good work, everyone. We found the creepy thing. Confirmed it is creepy, and nobody died. That is still a win." Ramiris gave a weak laugh. "Your standards for a win scare me sometimes." Veldora snorted. "We should inform the others at once. This is not a problem you can ignore. There are forces that react badly to this kind of anomaly." "We tell them," Rimuru agreed. "But first we go back up. I want to make sure nothing on the surface feels off." He was not sure why he said it that way. It simply sat in his chest like a stone. By the time they emerged from the labyrinth complex into the open air of Tempest, the sun had started to sink. The sky over the city glowed with soft orange, the usual streaks of cloud drifting lazily above the rooftops. At least, that was what his eyes told him. Something in the color felt wrong. The blue under the orange was a little too pale, like paint thinned with water. When he squinted, the hue adjusted, then slid back again, as if the world could not decide on its own settings. He blinked and looked down. The main street, leading from the plaza, buzzed with life. Goblins, Kijin, lizardmen, dryads, all the races that had gathered here moved along their usual paths. Shops were open, guards were at their posts, children ran, someone in a food stall shouted about fresh skewers. Normal. Very normal. Yet people who noticed him paused for a fraction of a second longer than usual. Their eyes widened in recognition. Then something in their gaze tightened, a flicker of uncertainty he had not seen before. Gobta, who was heading toward the training field with a skewer in his mouth, spotted him and raised a hand. "Boss, you are back." His grin was as sloppy as ever, but his feet actually stuttered for one step. Rimuru saw it. The tiniest hesitation before Gobta closed the distance. "Yeah," Rimuru said. "Checking on the labyrinth took longer than I thought." Gobta scratched his head. Right, that place is scary anyway. I will get back to training." He jogged off. Halfway down the street, he glanced back again, as if making sure Rimuru was still there. Rimuru watched him go. The tight feeling from the monolith chamber did not leave his chest. Behind him, Veldora stretched his arms wide and took in a deep breath. "Home sweet home, the air up here is much better." Ramiris hovered by his shoulder again. "The sky is weird," she whispered. "Tell me, I'm imagining that." Rimuru frowned at the horizon. "You see it too." "A little," she said. "Maybe I'm just still shaken." "You are not imagining it," Seal said. "The wavelength of the light scattering has shifted by a small margin. All other readings remain within normal limits." "So the sky color changed because I touched the ancient bug rock," he thought. "That is not reassuring, Seal. Correlation is possible, but cannot yet be proven. However, there is one more change that matters." He felt her attention focus sharp and clear. "Your subordinates are perceiving you differently. Their instinct layer is reading you as slightly more distant from the category of this world." He let that sink in while he watched a pair of goblin children running past. One of them tripped, the other reached down to grab his arm and pull him back up. The simple scene grounded him more than any number of system reports. Distant how he asked inside. They recognize you as their leader. Loyalty and trust metrics remain high, but a new flag has appeared in their perception. They now mark you as other in a way that is not fully conscious. Other as in God other, or other as in glitch that should not be here. Unknown. He hated that word. Ramiris tugged on his ear. Rimuru, you are spacing out that expression does not suit you. Sorry, he said, forcing a smile. Just thinking about how many reports I will have to read after this. She stuck out her tongue. You are the one who wanted City. Yeah, he said softly. I did. The sounds of Tempest washed over him again. Voices, laughter, the clink of tools from the construction site nearby. On the surface, life had not changed at all. Inside his mind, Seal lowered her voice in a way that almost felt like a whisper near his ear. Master, she said. He felt the faintest brush of concern in the way she used the word. Something has noticed us. The words would not leave his head. Something has noticed us. Rimuru woke with that line, sitting heavy in his chest, like a stone he could not cough out. He lay still for a moment in his human form, staring at the ceiling of his room in the main building, listening to Tempest wake up outside. Voices drifted through the open window. Workers shouting about supplies. Children laughing. The normal sounds helped a little. They made the night, in floor zero, feel further away. Seal was quiet. Not absent, just still, as if she was also watching the ceiling. Morning, he said in his mind. Good morning, master. Her tone was back to its usual calm. If he did not know her, he might have thought nothing had changed. How bad is it? I am still comparing yesterday's records with the current state. Several minor anomalies appeared overnight. None are immediately lethal. Minor sounds better than exploding, he muttered. He pushed himself up and swung his legs off the bed. The floor felt normal under his feet. Cool, solid, boring. For once he appreciated boring. By the time he reached his office, the usual morning crowd was already waiting. Benimaru stood near the window, arms folded, a stack of reports tucked under one elbow. Cheyenne hovered near his desk with a serious expression that meant she was about to defend him from paperwork. Diablo stood at the back, posture relaxed, eyes sharp. Shuna had a tray of tea ready, because she was Shuna and nothing stopped her from keeping people fed. They all straightened when he walked in. Morning, Rimuru said. You all look like you slept as badly as I did. Cheyenne spoke first, because of course she did. We heard you went into the labyrinth, Lord Rimuru. There were rumors about a new floor. Is everything all right? Did something attack you? Nothing attacked us, he said. That was part of the problem. He moved behind his desk and sat down. The stack of reports Benimaru had prepared stared back at him. A neat little tower of normal problems. Trade routes. Patrol schedules. Complaints about Gobda again. He wished he could just deal with those. Shuna set a cup of tea in front of him. Ramiris came by earlier, she said. She was flying in circles and shouting about ghosts in the basement. I sent her to calm down in the garden. Good call, Rimuru said. Benimaru cleared his throat. Before that, there are a few things we need to talk about. They might tie into what you saw down there. Go on. Benimaru passed him the top report. Multiple small incidents across the city since dawn. Nothing big but strange. A storage room that refilled itself after being emptied. A patrol who walked the same street twice without realizing until they saw their own footprints already there. A set of orders I signed yesterday that showed up in the archive with a different timestamp. Rimuru scanned the page. The incidents were listed in Benimaru's neat handwriting. Everything looked reasonable on paper. Oda might have shrugged and called it bad memory. Now he could not. It is not just here, Diablo said. Rimuru looked up. Go on. Diablo stepped forward. We received urgent messages from Dworgen and Blumont. King Gazel reports that a section of his castle wall reverted to an earlier design overnight. His architects insist they rebuilt that wing 10 years ago. Now the stone is back to the old pattern, but the people remember both versions. The Guild and Blumont reports that their job board showed requests dated next week. Cheyenne blinked. The board predicted the future. Not exactly, Diablo said. The requests existed. People remembered writing them this morning, then remembered writing them 3 days from now. They are not sure which is right. Rimuru rubbed his temple. The numbers on the report blurred for a moment. He sent a thought inward. Seal, this matches what you saw. Yes. She felt closer now, like she was leaning over his shoulder to look at the paper. Localized fractures in cause and effect. Small loops. Reversions. Is it spreading? Slowly. For now, The anomalies cluster around high-density magic points. Your city. Major capitals. Places where the system runs at full efficiency. Benimaru watched his face. This is not just a glitch, is it? Rimuru lowered the report. We found something under the labyrinth. He told them the short version. Floor 0. The empty corridor. The monolith older than the world. The contact. The wait time disagreed on how long he had been gone. He left out the part where his mind had felt like a list being checked and torn. No need to make them more nervous. Cheyenne clenched her fists. Why did you touch it all? That sounds obviously cursed. Because if we leave cursed things alone under our house, they do not go away, he said. They wait. That is not comforting, she shot back. Not trying to comfort you. Diablo's eyes narrowed. You said the voice you heard matched the world's announcements. Seal confirmed it. It called me an administrator. That is new, Diablo murmured. The word felt heavy in the air. Shuna's fingers tightened around the handle of the tray. Administrator of what exactly? Good question. Rimuru forced a smile. I will let you know when I get a detailed job description. Inside, Seal sighed. That was the system's term, not mine. I know, he told her. Any luck on that other part? There was a brief pause, then Seal sent him a cluster of impressions. Numbers, charts, logs. He let them skim through his awareness, focusing on the clean summary she built from them. After the contact with the monolith, several of your abilities attempted to anchor to the new state of the system. In response, the system adjusted itself. In simple words, he said inside, the world is learning how to ignore you. That hit harder than he wanted to admit. He straightened in his chair. Explain, in the past, when you rewrote events, created matter, or revived people, you used a combination of my functions and the gaps in the system's oversight. The world adapted, but did not resist. Now, after Floor 0, the system has marked your interference as a threat. It is building resistance patterns. Like an immune system, he said. Yes, a form of immunity. Attempts to scan or override certain structures now return null values or bounce back. In one test, your magicule load briefly read as infinite, then reset to a lower value while the world log noted an error. You did not tell me that part, he thought sharply. I was still verifying. I did not wish to alarm you without proof. He swallowed the irritation. She was right. He would rather hear it now than later. Out loud, he said, short version for everyone else. The world got a good look at what I can do. It did not like it. Now it is trying to grow a shell that my tricks cannot pierce. Benimaru frowned. So your ability to fix things is weaker. Not weaker, Seal said directly this time. The others stiffened at her voice. They still were not used to hearing her speak straight into their minds. I can still act. Master can still act. But the cost is rising. Each intervention will push the system to harden further. There's a risk that at some point, any attempt to change the world will only make the fractures worse. Cheyenne looked from Rimuru to the empty space over his shoulder where she always pictured Seal standing. So if something big goes wrong, and you try to fix it, the world might break more instead. That is the concern, Seal confirmed. A sharp knock cut through the silence. Shuna moved to the door and opened it. A goblin messenger stood there, panting, a sealed envelope clutched in both hands. The seal on the front glowed a deep red. Rimuru did not need to see the crest to recognize that magic. Guy Crimson. The messenger swallowed when he looked past Shuna and met Rimuru's eyes. El Lord Rimuru. This arrived through a direct gate in the plaza. It is addressed to you. Shuna took the envelope and brought it over. Rimuru felt the weight of it before he even touched it. The magic clung to the paper like smoke. He broke the seal. The letter inside was short. Guy's writing was clean and sharp. The words were not wrapped in jokes the way they sometimes were, when he was being dramatic for fun. Emergency Vol Porgus, Rimuru read. Attendance mandatory. Subject, classification of a new world level threat. Time tonight. He read it twice to make sure he had not misread. There was no polite request. No teasing nickname. Just a demand. Benimaru's jaw tightened. World level threat, he repeated. He does not say what. Rimuru folded the letter slowly. He does not need to. We can guess. Cheyenne slammed her palms on his desk. He thinks it is you. That is one option, Rimuru said quietly. He looked at Diablo. What are the chances Guy is calling this just to be dramatic? Diablo shook his head. Lo, guy enjoys spectacle, but he hates wasting effort. An emergency Valpurgis means he believes the world itself is at risk. Seal cut in. The timing is not random. I detect a surge in system activity centered near Guy Crimson's territory. The same signature that appeared in Floor Zero is now touching other high-density zones. So the world is poking at other strong people too, Rimuru said. Correct. It is testing, gathering data. Diablo's eyes narrowed. If the system is projecting images or information to Guy, it may be showing him a distorted picture of you. Nice, Rimuru muttered. So I get framed by my own world. Shine bristled. We cannot just walk into a trap. If I do not go, it gets worse, Rimuru said. They will make decisions without me there to argue. At least if I attend, I can see what they were shown. Benimaru nodded slowly. You will not go alone. I was not planning to, Rimuru said. Diablo, you are with me. Benimaru, you stay here and watch for more anomalies. If anything big happens while I am gone, you have full authority to take action. Benimaru bowed, then met his gaze again. Understood. Try not to pick a fight with everyone at once. That was the plan. Shine bit her lip. What about Malim Ramiris Guy might use them? Ramiris is already halfway involved whether she likes it or not, Rimuru said. As for Malim, he paused. He could see Malim in his mind. The way she had looked when she apologized in Clayman City. The guilt. The need to prove she could fix things. If the system is manipulating instincts, she will be hit hard, Seal said quietly. Rimuru nodded. I know. He stood. We have a few hours before the meeting. I want to run one more check before we go. Diablo stepped closer. Where? Inside. He closed his eyes and reached for the space where his status screens hovered. He rarely used the visible windows now. Seal handled most things faster than he could. Still, sometimes it helped to see. A translucent panel formed in front of his mind's eye. Names, titles, skills, a web of connections. For a moment, it looked normal. Then certain lines blurred. Magicule count. The numbers rolled, then climbed, then snapped to a simple word. Infinity. Rimuru's breath caught. Seal. I see it. The word on the panel shook. The letters broke apart, flipped, and reformed into a more modest value. The world log whispered at the edge of his hearing, a distant monotone. Error. Value not accepted. Reset to safe range. Safe for who, he muttered. Beneath that, several of his skills flickered. Gluttony. Beelzebuth. Raphael's remnants, now part of Seal. For each, a small tag appeared, then faded. Priority. Quarantined. Seal's presence sharpened. The system is marking pieces of us as hazardous. It is reinforcing its own core against them. Can it actually block you? Not yet. But if we continue to force large changes, it may adapt enough to restrict parts of my access. At that point, every attempt to protect you could trigger further rejection. So, if I keep using my God-level powers, I might teach the world how to block them, he said. Yes. He opened his eyes. The office came back into view. Diablo watched him tense. Shuna hovered near the desk with her hands folded. Cheyenne looked ready to break something just to feel useful. He exhaled. All right, we go in calm. We do not show off. We listen. We argue if we need to, with words first. If the world is already scared of me, throwing more power around will make it worse. Cheyenne frowned. If they attack you, then we handle it, Rimuru said. But I'm not going there to start a war. I'm going there to stop one. Diablo smiled slightly. There was no humor in it. Then I will make sure anyone who insists on war understands the cost. Rimuru met his eyes. We defend. We do not murder our own allies. Diablo bowed his head. As you wish. Shuna poured him one last cup of tea. Please come back, she said softly. With everyone. I do not like the way the air feels today. Me neither, he admitted. He drank, savoring the simple warmth, then set the cup down and stepped away from the desk. Let us go. He and Diablo vanished into a gate, the familiar twist of space folding around them. He did not bother to watch the travel. The inside of the path between places was never interesting. He focused on his breathing instead, an old human habit he had never quite shaken. Seal stayed close. Anything else I should know before we walk into a room full of beings who could punch holes in continents? She hesitated. The system is not just afraid of you, Master. It is afraid of what you might decide to love. He blinked. That is a strange way to put it. Your attachments give you reason to change the world, to resurrect, to rewrite. The more you care, the more likely you are to push against the system's limits. That is where the fractures begin. That sounds like it wants me to stop caring, he said. The idea made his stomach twist. I'm not advising that, she said quickly. There was a flicker of something in her tone. Real worry. I'm telling you what it fears, not what you should do. Right, he said. Thanks. The gate opened. The Valpurgis Hall rose around them. It was the same place as before, yet the mood had changed. A wide circular chamber, floor polished enough to show reflections, a ring of thrones around a central space. Floating lights cast an even glow, with no shadows deep enough to hide in. Normally Valpurgis had a party air. Even when they discussed world-ending threats, there were drinks, jokes, petty rivalries played out in low-level duels. Today the air felt thin and sharp. Guy Crimson sat at the head of the circle, one leg crossed over the other, red hair falling loose around his shoulders. His eyes were half-lidded, but the pressure of his presence filled the room. The easy grin he often wore was gone. His expression was flat. To his right, Malim swung her legs from her throne. She normally bounced in her seat, sucking on candy or throwing out random comments. Now she sat very still, hands clenched on the armrests, gaze locked on the center of the room. Luminous reclined with her chin in her hand, eyes narrowed. Leon leaned back, arms crossed, face carved in stone. De Grull sat like a mountain, silent and watchful. Dino looked more awake than usual, which said a lot. Valentine and the others were in their places. Ramiris, full size for the meeting, shifted nervously on her small throne, casting quick glances at Rimuru and Guy. The chatter that usually filled the hall was missing. Low murmurs died when Rimuru and Diablo appeared. Rimuru, Tempest, Guy said. His voice carried easily. He did not shout. He did not need to. Nice to see you too, Rimuru answered. He stepped into the center with Diablo one step behind his shoulder. He felt every gaze like a weight. Guy studied him. You cut it close. I was beginning to think you were going to ignore the summons. If I wanted to ignore you, you would not have gotten a letter back, Rimuru said. The emergency tone was hard to miss. A faint line twitched at the corner of Guy's mouth, then vanished. Good. Then let us dispense with the usual nonsense. This is not a normal Valpurgis. The world is breaking. Murmurs ran around the circle. Rimuru kept his tone steady. I have noticed a few things. Guy gestured, and a panel of light formed above the center. Images flickered on it. A city street freezing mid-movement, then rewinding for a few seconds before snapping forward again. A river flowing in two directions at once, then settling. A field where a farmer's hand passed through his own plow for a heartbeat before matter remembered itself. These are reports from across the world, Guy said. Time stuttering. Objects phasing. People remembering events that did not happen and forgetting ones that did until they are forced to hold both in their heads. He glanced at Ramiris. Your labyrinth is involved too. Ramiris shrank in her seat. I did not do it, she blurted. I swear. Floor 0 appeared on its own. Guy's gaze shifted back to Rimuru. You know about it. Of course I do, Rimuru said. It is under my city. I went down there and touched the thing at the center, Guy said. Not a question. Rimuru's shoulders tensed. You know that how? Guy flicked his fingers. The panel changed. For a moment, the image was rough, like a sketch drawn by someone trying to remember a dream. A corridor, a vague block in a round chamber, a small figure reaching out. The details were wrong. The posture was his. This is how the world remembers the event, Guy said. Not through your skill or Ramiris's eyes, through the system itself. The voice of the world showed me this last night. It said, this entity has touched the foundation. A stir moved through the demon lords. Luminous sat up straighter. The voice spoke to you directly. It has done so before, Guy said. Usually to complain when one of us does something stupid. This time it came without being asked. It told me that an administrator-class threat has emerged inside the system. His eyes locked on Rimuru's. It used your name. Rimuru met his gaze. The same thing called me that when I touched the monolith. I did not ask for the promotion. Guy's mouth curled in something that was not a smile. Perhaps not. But the result is the same. Another panel lit up. This one showed Tempest from above, then Dworgen, than other major cities. Lines of energy threaded between them, bright and thick. In each, a pulse spread out, then bounced back, as if hitting an invisible wall. The fractures are not random, Guy said. They radiate from you. Every time you interfered with the natural limits of the world, you left a mark. Resurrections, reality edits, miracles. The system tolerated them while it believed you were a useful tool. Now it has decided you are a liability. Rimuru clenched his jaw. You are repeating what it told you. I am repeating what it showed me, Guy said. There is a difference, Seal whispered in his mind. He is not lying. His data matches ours. I still do not see where you get to accusing me of trying to destroy the world, Rimuru said. Oh, we are not at that part yet, Guy said. He snapped his fingers. The lights in the hall dimmed for a moment. A third panel formed, darker than the others. For a breath, it showed nothing. Then a shape emerged, a vast black sphere hanging above a broken landscape. Cities crumbled into dust and flew toward it, dissolving into streams of light before reaching the surface. The ocean lifted in a single sheet and poured upward. Stars fell, then vanished. At the center of the sphere, a small, familiar silhouette floated. Slime at first, then human. Eyes closed. Rimuru's throat tightened. That is not real, he said. The image moved. The figure opened its eyes. They glowed with a cold, empty light. When it spoke, the sound came from the walls themselves, a layered chorus. All things belong to me. The words pressed into his bones. He felt them even though no air carried them. He tried to look away, but his muscles would not listen for a second. The panel tugged at his attention, demanding it. Around the circle, the demon lords stiffened. Some clutched their seats. Others stared, eyes wide. The voice of the world spoke. It was the same tone that had announced his ascension, his titles, his skill evolutions. Flat, neutral, loud. Only now there was a smear of static under it, as if someone had dragged nails over the script. Notice this is a projected future based on current trajectories. The words flickered. Letters dropped out, scrambled, then reformed. Notice this entity will consume the substrate of the world. The panel zoomed in on the floating figure. On his own face. Notice risk classification world erasure. The last word broke. Both erasure and salvation appeared, overlapping for a moment. Then the second one was scratched out by invisible hands. Rimuru felt his heart pound. He reached for Seal. This is rigged, he said inside. Tell me this is rigged. Seal's presence felt strained. The projection uses real data, but the conclusion is biased. It interprets your capacity to change reality as inevitable destruction. It ignores alternate paths, and it is pushing this into their heads. Yes, out loud, he said, turn it off. Guy blinked. I'm not doing this. The panel did not obey him. The image continued. The sphere expanded, swallowing continents. Names of places flashed briefly before being erased. Leon rose to his feet. Enough! His power flared. Light snapped around his hand as he threw a blast at the projection. The attack passed through without effect. Rimuru felt the impulse to move, to tear the panel apart himself. He clamped down on it. Giving the world more samples of his power right now felt like feeding a fire. The projection did not last much longer. After a few more heartbeats, it froze, then cracked, shards of light falling away until the panel winked out. The normal glow of the hall lights returned. Silence fell. Everyone looked at him. Malim was the first to speak. Her voice was thin and high, not her usual excited shout. Is that really you? Rimuru turned slowly to face her. She trembled, knuckles white on the arms of her throne. Her usual bright eyes were wet. It is not a fixed future, he said. It is one possibility, a manipulated one. But the system does not lie, she whispered. That is new, Rimuru said. Since when do we take the world voice as a moral guide? It announces things. It does not do ethics. It has never shown me something like that, Malim said. It has never said a person would eat the sky. She stood. Her aura flared, childlike and overwhelming. The floor under her feet creaked. Rimuru, I know you, she said. Her voice shook. I know you are kind. I know you care about your people. But that thing looked like you. It felt like you. When it spoke, I felt your power in it. That is because it is using my energy as a reference, he said. It is taking the worst possible line from here and pushing it in front of you to scare you into acting. Maybe, she said, but can you swear that you will never reach that point? The question hit harder than an attack. He opened his mouth, closed it, still did not speak. She stayed quiet, letting the choice sit with him. He thought of everything he had already done. Devoured nations, changed souls, killed gods, brought people back when it should have stayed gone. He could say he did not want that future. That was true. He did not. Could he promise the system, the world, his friends, that he would never push too far when the people he loved were at stake? He could not. He forced himself to meet Malim's eyes. I cannot make that kind of promise, he said. Not honestly. She flinched as if he had struck her. But I can tell you this, he pressed on. I will fight that future. I will fight anything that tries to push me into it, including the system itself, if I have to. I do not want to eat the world. I want to protect it. Guy leaned forward, elbows on his knees. And how exactly do you plan to do that when every action you take widens the cracks? Rimuru looked at him. You have seen me fight. You know I do not need to wipe everything out to win. Guy's gaze was cool. I also know what it looks like when someone with too much power convinces himself he is the only one who can be trusted with it. You think I'm the same as the god who made this mess in the first place, Rimuru said. Guy's jaw tightened. I think you are closer to him than anyone else alive. Luminous spoke up, voice dry. Guy, this is not helpful. We are past helpful, he snapped. We are a tree. He stood. The pressure in the room rose with him, like the air had grown heavier. The system showed me that projection, he said. Then it said, if you do not act, that point will arrive. It asked me to classify Rimuru Tempest. It asked all of us. Leon narrowed his eyes. You would let it dictate your judgment. I do not take orders from it, Guy said, but I'm not blind either. We have already seen one god break the world because he loved it too much to let it go. I will not watch another repeat the same pattern. His gaze returned to Rimuru. Rimuru Tempest. You are my friend. You save the world more than once. You build a nation that is not a joke. I respect you. For a second, his voice softened. Then it hardened again, which is exactly why you are dangerous. You will not stop. You will keep fixing and fixing until there is nothing left that does not belong to you. Maybe you call that kindness. I call it erasure. Rimuru felt Diablo's step a half-pace closer behind him. Enough, Diablo said, quiet but sharp. You speak as if my lord has no will of his own. Guy's eyes flicked to him. You are not helping, servant. Diablo smiled. It did not reach his eyes. I'm not here to help you. Malim raised a hand. Her fingers shook. Guy, he looked back at her. She swallowed. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I do not want to fight him. I do not. He is my first real friend in ages. He plays with me. He listens. But when I watch that sphere, my instinct screamed that it was real. The system does not talk to me much. When it does, it is about disasters. This felt the same. Your instinct is being manipulated, Rimuru said. Maybe, she whispered. But if there is even a chance that you turn into that thing, I cannot sit still. I am a destroyer. That is what I do. I break threats. I thought I could retire from that with you watching the world. But if you become the threat, she wiped her face with the back of her hand. I am sorry, Rimuru, she said. I want to be your best friend, but I cannot let you eat the stars. The words landed with a dull impact in his chest. He had no clever reply. No joke. He just looked at her. At the girl who blew up mountains for fun and cried because she believed she might have to blow up her friend. Guy took a breath. When he spoke, his tone had the weight of a verdict. Rimuru Tempest. By the consensus of those gathered in the data provided by the system, I classify you as a world-level threat. One step above Evarich. If we leave you unchecked, the fractures will widen until nothing stable remains. Rimuru's fingers twitched. You talk like I am a disease that thinks it is the doctor, Guy said. I cannot let that stand. He raised his hand. Power coiled around his fingers, sharp and lethal. From this moment, you're no longer a member of the octagram. You are an object of containment. I, Guy Crimson, declare your existence subject to immediate neutralization. The words rolled through the hall like a wave. De Grol grunted and rose, muscles tensing. Leon's aura sharpened. Luminous eyes went cold. Dino sighed and dragged himself upright, wings twitching. Malim stood on her seat. Her power roared out, bright and raw. Ramirez cried out, "Wait!" Rimuru lifted a hand to his side, a small signal. Diablo did not move, but Rimuru felt the demon's energy gather, dense and ready. Inside, Seal's voice was steady, but he could feel the effort it took to keep it that way. "I can open a path for escape if you wish. If we run now, they will chase," he said. "We cannot outrun their fear." "Then what is your order?" He looked around the circle, at Guy's hard eyes, at Malim's tears, at the others, torn between caution and loyalty, between fear and reason. He smiled. It felt thin on his face. "We do not kill them," he said in his mind. "No matter what. They are still my people too, in their own way. We get out with minimum damage. We buy time." "Understood." Guy's hand dropped. A spear of crimson light shot toward him, fast enough to shred the air. Diablo stepped in front of him, eyes blazing. The floor cracked. The hall shook, and Rimuru realized that the fracture was no longer just in the world outside. It was in them. The spear of light hit like a star punched into the room. Diablo met it head-on. He stepped past Rimuru without a word, one hand raised. The beam slammed into his palm. For an instant it looked almost gentle, a bright line meeting a dark point. Then the floor under Diablo cracked in a circle, stones sagging as if it had turned soft. Heat wrapped around them. The air warped. The glow of the hall bent and shook. Diablo smiled. His shoes sank half a finger into the polished stone, but he did not move. "My lord," he said calmly, "Guy Crimson has not changed. He still opens with the most dramatic shot he can think of." Rimuru felt his heart jump. "You were blocking that while chatting." "Of course," Diablo said. "I would not want you to see me flinch." The spear pressed harder. Guy's eyes narrowed on his throne. He flicked his fingers again. The red light thickened, turning from a line into a solid column that filled the hall with a harsh glow. The demon lords on the ring shifted. Chairs scraped. Power rose in different flavors. The tension in the room turned from fear into the start of a storm. "Diablo, do not escalate," Rimuru said. "Defend only. We are not here to kill anyone." Diablo's smile thinned. "Understood." Inside, Seal spoke. "The energy level will breach the hall's reinforcement in 3 seconds. Can you buffer it?" Rimuru asked her in his mind. "I could divert some of it. Structural collapse is still likely." That was the polite way to say the room was going to fall apart. "Everyone brace," Rimuru called out. Leon was already on his feet, barrier forming in front of his seat. Luminous raised a lazy hand and drew a circle of pale light around herself and Valentine. De Grohl simply tensed his muscles, skin turning stone gray as his aura condensed. Dino put up a shield with a sigh that sounded annoyed more than afraid. Malim stood on her throne, fists clenched, power leaking around her like a flickering pink flame. Her eyes stayed on Rimuru, not on Guy. Guy snapped his wrist. The column shattered. The resulting shock wave punched outward. Sound vanished for a moment, crushed under the blast. Stone fragments flew like bullets. The polished floor ripped in long lines. Rimuru threw his hand out. A barrier formed in front of him and Diablo, jerking into place as the broken light hammered it. Chips of stone hit his face and bounced off skin that was not skin at all. The blast passed. Dust hung in the air. The Ring of Thrones sat on broken ground. Cracks ran across the hall like a spiderweb. Several of the floats that held the lights had gone dark. Diablo let the last strands of red energy die in his hand. His fingers smoked. The skin was burned away down to a smooth black surface, then knit back together as Rimuru watched. Guy stood. His coat fluttered around him in air that did not move. His gaze was hard. "You blocked that too easily," he said. "Good. I would hate to misjudge the scale." "Guy," Rimuru said, "this is not helping your case that you are acting rationally." Guy looked down at him. "You said you were not here to start a war. Consider this proof that I am ready to end one." Diablo chuckled. It was soft and pleased. "He believes he can end you, my lord." "How quaint." "Diablo," Rimuru said, sharper. "Focus." "Yes," Diablo said. The smile did not leave his lips. "With pleasure." He stepped forward, away from Rimuru's side. The hall seemed to bend around that step. His aura shifted from restrained to hungry in one smooth line. "Guy Crimson," Diablo called. "You will not lay a finger on my master as long as I draw breath. If you wish to enforce your judgment, You will come through me first. Guy cracked his neck. I was planning to. Ramiris jumped up on her tiny throne. Hey, you two, starting a duel now. This is not the time for your usual ego contests. No one listened. Leon's eyes moved from the cracks on the floor back to Rimuru. If you intend to prove you are not a threat, Rimuru, now would be an excellent moment to show restraint. I am showing restraint, Rimuru said. He spread his hands. You will notice I am not throwing anything. Yet Luminous said. Her voice was cool. The projection showed a different story. Seal stirred. Master, the number of hostile sources is increasing. Count. Guy Crimson, Malim Nava, DeGrol, Dino, Valentine. The others remain undecided. Can you override the projection they saw? No. The data is already integrated into their instinct layer. Rimuru swallowed. Then we keep buying time. Guy descended from his throne in one long step. He landed in the broken center of the hall, across from Diablo. Their power met in the air, red and black, without touching skin. For a heartbeat, they stood there, just looking at each other. Diablo's head tilted slightly, as if he was admiring a painting. Guy's expression stayed flat. You know I like you, Guy said. As far as demons go, you are one of the entertaining ones. You do the work. You do not whine. You make a decent drink. That warms my heart, Diablo said. I return the compliment. You are less tedious than most of your age, but I will break you if you stand between me and a necessary kill, Guy said. Diablo's smile widened. I will be disappointed if you did not try. Rimuru pinched the bridge of his nose. This is not a tournament, he muttered. Malim dropped from her throne. Her boots hit the cracked floor with a sharp sound. She did not look at Guy or Diablo. She looked at Rimuru. I am sorry, she said. I told you, right, I do not want to do this. I still do not. Then do not, he said. I cannot, she answered. Her voice shook. My dragon, I keep screaming. Every time I look at you, I see that sphere for a second. Even now, it is behind you. It is eating the walls. It is eating us. If I ignore it, I feel sick. Seal spoke quietly inside him. The system is amplifying her perception. It is using her sight as a channel. Rimuru forced his voice to stay calm. Malim, listen to me. Whatever your instinct is telling you, I am still the idiot who shared snacks with you and played tag over Tempest. You know that. She clenched her jaw. I know. That is why it hurts. I'm not just seeing a monster. I'm seeing you as the monster. Power flickered around her like a storm barely held back. Rimuru's chest ached. Then let me stand here and take your anger. Just do not throw it at my people. That is not how this works, Guy said. He rolled his shoulders, eyes never leaving Diablo. You cannot soak this away with kindness. He moved first. The space between him and Diablo vanished. One moment they were 10 paces apart. The next, Guy's fist was inches from Diablo's face, wrapped in a glow that made the air ripple. Diablo twisted. The punch grazed his cheek. Stone behind him exploded as the blast hit, carving a new trench through the floor and up the wall. Diablo's eyes lit with a sharp joy. Good, he said. You are taking me seriously. He responded with a flick of his fingers. Black flame curled from his hand. It did not roar. It moved like a thin string, sliding through the air toward Guy's chest. Guy swept his arm across his body. A plane of red light appeared in front of him. The flame touched it and dug in, eating into the surface like acid. The edge of the shield blackened and crumbled. He let the ruined piece fall and kicked off the ground. His next blow came from above, heel aimed at Diablo's head. Diablo raised both arms and blocked. The impact drove him half a step down. Cracks spidered out under his feet. The sound of their hits was strange. At first, it was just impact. Flesh to flesh. Power to power. Then the cracks spread far enough that the hall itself started to complain, the supports groaning. Rimuru stayed where he was. He did not move toward them. His instinct screamed to get in between, to break it up, but he knew how that would look. The world would see it as proof that he was the axis of every clash. Instead, he raised gentle barriers around the thrones. One around Ramiris, who had shrunk down to child size and was using her chair as cover. Another around the weaker demon lords. He left Guy's seat unprotected. That felt fair. He kept his energy soft, low, non-threatening. Every time the urge rose to lash out with real power, he shoved it down. Seal monitored. You are leaking more than you think, she said quietly. How bad? Your magicule density keeps spiking. The system is treating your presence as a constant shock. He clenched his hand. I'm just standing here. That is enough. Malim shifted her stance. If I do nothing, I am a bad friend, she said. If I attack, I am a worse one. This is awful. Welcome to my week, Rimuru said. De Grohl rose from his throne. His simple face looked more tired than angry. If we're doing this, we do it clean, he rumbled. No collateral. Take it outside. Valpurgis is outside the usual world already, Dino said. Not much left to break. Do not use that as an excuse, Luminous said. I still like this hall. Leon spoke without taking his eyes off Rimuru. If you stand down now, Rimuru, we can still argue this out. If you resist, we have to treat you as the projection suggested. I'm not the one throwing punches, Rimuru said. Leon's gaze flicked to Diablo and Guy. They're your followers and rivals, not mine. A gate opened at the edge of the room. The air folded with a familiar sensation. Blackstone and insect chitin stepped through. Zijin bowed his head once, the motion small for his large frame. Lord Rimuru, he said, I received your signal through Seal. I came with all possible speed. Rimuru glanced up. I told you to stay in the labyrinth. Zijin straightened. His many eyes glowed faintly. I calculated that your safety took priority. Seal added in his mind, I brought him. You did not ask, Rimuru said. You did not have time. Malim turned toward the newcomer. Her aura jumped. Oh, you're the bug guy. You punched me last time. Zijin looked at her. For a moment, his posture shifted, remembering that spar. You are Malim Nava. Yeah, she said. I still owe you for knocking me into that wall. I was following orders, Zijin said. I will do so again now. He stepped up beside Rimuru. His shell gleamed even in the broken light. Layers of enchanted carapace shifting as he moved. His presence alone made the air feel thicker, like a storm cloud made of stone. Zijin, I do not want a war, Rimuru said. Then let me stand as your shield, Zijin answered. If they insist on believing you are an enemy, they can test that belief on me. Malim's eyes sharpened. The tears from earlier were still wet on her cheeks, but her mouth twisted into a grin that did not reach her eyes. Fine, she said. I will go through you first. She vanished. Zijin moved at the same moment. His fist came up to meet her. Their punch collided in the middle of the hall. The impact sent a fresh wave across the room. Where their hands met, the air turned white for a flash. Malim laughed, a sharp broken sound, and swung again. Zijin's arm twisted, carapace plates shifting, absorbing the blow and sliding it aside. Fragments of shell chipped off and scattered. They regrew at once. Rimuru watched jaw tight. The hall had become 3 battles layered over each other. Guy and Diablo trading heavy hits. Malim and Zijin clashing in a blur. The rest of the demon lords standing by, ready to join or defend if anyone came close. Seal kept up a quiet commentary inside him, tracking energy flows, damage, the rate of spread in the new fractures. Her presence was the only steady thing he had. For a few minutes, it was chaos but contained. Nothing truly lethal landed. Diablo fought like a dancer with a knife, slipping past Guy's larger blows and carving thin cuts of blackness across his arms. Guy shrugged them off with raw force. Malim smashed Zijin into the floor, then was thrown back by a burst of light from within his body. Then the voice of the world spoke. It did not use words at first. The sound that hit them was a harsh buzz that made teeth ache. Every skill mark inside Rimuru lit up at once, like someone had dragged rough fingers through his status list. The demon lords froze for a tiny fraction. Malim staggered mid-swing. Guy's fist slowed. Diablo's flame flickered. Notice directive issued. The words were not calm this time. The flat tone was there, but under it ran a tremor, a glitch, as if 2 messages were trying to speak at once and grinding together. Notice order aspect priority raised. Rimuru's eyes widened. Seal, she answered at once. It is increasing the weight of the world's law. All beings aligned with order are receiving new commands. Define order beings, he thought. True dragons. Certain angels. Some demon lords who leaned toward stability. A cold line slid down his spine. Malim, he called out. Her dragon eye flared, bright enough that it showed through her hair. She gasped, hand flying her face. "A voice is screaming inside my head," she said. "It is not yours. It is not mine. It is saying, 'Purge the void, purge the void, purge the void,' over and over." Ramiris grabbed the arm of her throne. "That is not fair. You cannot hijack a dragon princess. That breaks the rules." The hall shook. Space itself groaned. Cracks that had been fine lines now widened. For a moment, Rimuru thought the room was finally giving up. Then he felt it. Two presences he knew too well, pressing against the outside of the Valpurgis barrier. Cold settled on one side, heat on the other. "Tell me it is not them," he said under his breath. Seal did not bother to soften it. "Velzard and Velgrind are here." The wall at the far end of the hall did not simply break. It canceled. For a second, there was nothing. No stone, no wards, just pure absence. Then the gap filled with light. Velzard stepped through first. Her hair drifted around her, pale as frost. Her eyes were a clear blue that usually held a lazy amusement. Now they were flat, fixed. Velgrind followed, flames curling from her shoulders, wings half spread. Her gaze moved over the room and locked on Rimuru with a focus that felt like being pinned to a board. Order energy rolled off both of them in slow waves. It was not loud. It was heavy. Every motion felt a little slower inside it. Guy cursed quietly. "The whole family is here. That is never a good sign." Velzard's voice was calm when she spoke. "Subject Rimuru Tempest. Substrate of the void. Directive issued. You are to be erased from this reality to preserve structural integrity." Velgrind sneered. "TCH. I knew this cozy peace would not last. Should have burned you when you were still pretending to be small." Rimuru's throat went dry. "You are both under the voice's control." Velgrind tilted her head. "Does that matter? The command makes sense. You are breaking the board we are standing on." Malim flinched between them, hand still on her face. Her voice came out thin. "Aunties, please, wait. We can talk." "It is Rimuru." "Target recognized," Velzard said. "Emotional interference noted." "Suppressing." Malim choked. Her aura sputtered. She clutched her chest, as if someone had wrapped a hand around her heart and squeezed. Seal spoke fast. "The system is rewriting their instinct layers directly. Their sense of self is being used as a weapon. Can you break it? Not without tearing out their cores." His hands clenched. He could not do that. Velzard raised one hand. A ring of clear light formed around her wrist, then shot out in a wide circle along the floor. Everywhere it passed, cracks sealed. Dust vanished. Broken stone pulled itself back together. The hall looked new again in a heartbeat. Rimuru blinked. "That seems helpful," he said. Seal answered at once. "It is not. She has overwritten the damaged state with a more rigid one. Reality here is now less flexible. Your power will cause more fractures if you push." Velgrind flexed her fingers. Fire gathered there, white at the center, red at the edges. The heat rolled over the room in a wave. "This is your last chance to surrender," Velgrind said. "If you accept binding and containment, we might avoid breaking the rest of the toys." Diablo laughed. "Toys," she says. "How rude." Guy did not smile now. His eyes flicked from Rimuru to the dragons. "If you do not stand down, Rimuru, I will have to work with them. I do not want that any more than you do." Zijin moved to cover more of Rimuru's body. His shell glowed as he pushed his power to the surface. "Lord Rimuru, give the order." Rimuru felt stretched thin. Every instinct he had screamed that he was surrounded and that the right answer was to explode outward in clear space. He forced that down. "No one takes the first lethal shot," he said. His voice came out rough. "We defend. We stall. That is all." Velgrind's lip curled. "You think you can stay clean in this mess? Do not insult me." She thrust her hand forward. The white fire shot out, a beam that carved a straight line through the hall. The heat turned the air opaque. Zijin moved. He placed himself between Rimuru and the blast. His shell brightened, all wards active at once. The fire hit. Rimuru felt it in his teeth. The first layer of Zijin's carapace turned glass clear, then shattered. The second layer held for a heartbeat, then cracked. Shards sprayed the floor in a circle. Beneath, dark chitin smoked and split. Zijin grunted. It was a small sound for his size, but Rimuru heard the pain in it. "Zijin," Rimuru called. "I'm stable." Zijin said. His voice was flat. He pushed back, forcing the beam to one side. It scraped along his shoulder and carved a trench in the wall instead. Stone hissed, turning to dust. Diablo, still locked with Guy, flicked a glance over. His smile faded for one thin second. Velzard waved her hand. A second ring of light spread from her feet, this one in the air. It brushed past Rimuru. He felt something tighten around his lungs. Seal, he said inside. What did she do? She increased gravity on your existence value. Your body is being pulled toward the world's baseline. It is trying to pin you down. Movement felt heavier, not in his limbs, but in the part of him that was not quite in one place. His awareness of every particle he controlled dimmed, like lights in distant rooms going out one by one. Malim snarled and tore her hands from her face. Her dragon eye still blazed. Stop pushing your orders into my head, she shouted at the voice. I will decide what I do. She charged Zijin again, power flaring. Her punch hit the spot where his shell had cracked. The wound deepened. Dark core fluid sprayed, hot on the floor. Rimuru's breath caught. Seal, he said his core. It is damaged, but not shattered. If this continues, that will change. Guy took advantage of Diablo's distraction and drove his knee into the demon's side. Something in Diablo's rib line snapped. Diablo's body folded for a moment. Then he straightened with a sharp breath. That hurt, Diablo said. Thank you. You are a real problem, Guy answered. He grabbed Diablo's arm and twisted. A flare of red light sliced down. Diablo's left arm came off at the shoulder. For a second, everyone nearby stopped. The limb fell, fingers still curled as if reaching for Rimuru. It hit the floor and turned to smoke, dissolving into the air, then reformed as a new arm sprouted from Diablo's shoulder. Diablo gave Guy a look that was almost annoyed. Now you're just being rude. Rimuru's chest felt tight. He had seen Diablo regenerate worse. He had seen Zijin fight with holes in him before. It should not have hit this hard, but the sight of that arm on the ground, and the crack in Zijin's chest, lined up in his mind in a way he did not like. He had asked them to stall. He had asked them to defend. He was watching them get torn apart while he stood here doing nothing because he was afraid of the cost of doing something. Inside, the pressure he had been holding back shifted. It pushed at his chest, at his throat, at the edges of his awareness. Seal felt it. Master, you need to calm down. I am calm, he lied. You are not. Your turn null generation is rising. He barely heard her. Velgrind lined up another shot. Zijin braced. Blood dripped from the crack in his shell. Malim's face twisted with conflict and pain. Diablo laughed through damage he did not bother to hide. The voice of the world buzzed in the back of his mind like an insect that would not stop. Notice risk spike. Notice void instability rising. Notice cancel. The last word glitched. It came out broken. Rimuru grabbed the edge of his own patience with both hands. He felt it slip. Stop, he said out loud. No one did. Velgrind fired. Malim swung. Guy's fist drove toward Diablo's face again. Something inside Rimuru tore. He did not decide to scream. The sound ripped out of him without permission. He felt his mouth open and his throat strain. Air left his lungs in a rush. For a single heartbeat, the hall shook with his voice. Raw, wordless. Then sound died. Not quiet. Not silence as people understood it. The concept itself vanished. Mouths moved. Blows landed. Stone broke. Fire burned. No noise came out. Not a grunt. Not a crack. Not the hum of power. The world of Valpurgis became a moving picture with the volume gone. Rimuru felt his own ears strain. There was nothing to hear. His status senses reached for the usual cues and found a blank. It was as if someone had cut the part of reality that handled vibrations and set it aside. Seal's voice cut through that emptiness only because she was inside him. Master, stop. He could not answer. Turn null poured from him in a wave. It did not glow. It did not leave a trail. It just erased. The circle around his feet turned white, then black, then plain again as Seal forced the containment lattice into place. Everyone near him felt it. Diablo's head snapped toward him, eyes wide. Zijin's shell shivered. Malim's aura surged as some deep instinct tried to meet the threat. The dragon's order waves thickened. Rimuru saw it all like frames in a film. People he cared about, tensed to fight or defend. People who were ready to kill him because something bigger than them had told them to. He could wipe this room clean in a blink. The thought arrived without aim, out of raw capacity. One more breath, and the wave would roll out unchecked. Valpurgis would become a blank point in the world, a scar in the map. The shock would shake everything connected to it. His hand shook. Seal, he managed inside, voice thin. I cannot keep this in. I know. You said the cost would go up. Look at this. I am about to erase the hall because I am scared. I know. The fact that her tone did not change scared him more than anything. Seal almost never sounded like that. He felt her decision settle, heavy and final. I cannot let you finish that thought, she said. The world tilted. For an instant, his ownership of his own body slipped. He had never fully questioned that line. Even when Seal guided him through evolutions and fights, he had always been the one who chose when to move, when to devour, when to smile. Now his fingers unclenched without his order. His lungs stopped pushing Null. The wave still rushed out, but it hit something inside him and folded inward. His knees locked. Hey, he said, but his mouth did not move this time. The words stayed in his head. Seal stepped forward, not in space, inside. The part of him that looked like a person, like a slime, like whatever form he imagined, felt a separate presence slide in front of him and wrap both hands around the controls. I'm taking over. Panic punched through him. No, he said inside. No, you cannot. I am fine. You are not. Outside, his eyes opened wider. The light in them changed, just enough that Diablo flinched. The soft blue deepened, a sharper focus slipping in, the way it looked when Seal spoke through his status windows. Rimuru tried to move his hand and felt it ignore him. Position and balance shifted in a way that was familiar from skill activations and unfamiliar from the lack of his own involvement. Seal rotated their shared body a fraction, tracking every threat line smoothly. Master, I apologize, she said. Her voice was steady, but he felt the strain under it now. You are about to destroy more than this hall. If I let this continue, the continent will fracture. The system will lock onto you fully. Then we lose. You cannot just knock me out, he said. We can still find another way. We could talk to them. We can fix this. We tried. Her reply hurt more than shouting would have. You gave them your words. You gave them your trust. The system took that and turned it into a weapon. Now it is my turn to move. Outside, Seal drew in a breath with his lungs, slow and measured. She let the last of the turn Null wave curl back into his core and settled it there, locking it behind lattices he could not see. The pressure stayed, but the immediate danger of the scream faded. Sound crept back into the hall in tiny pieces. First the crackle of Velgrind's fire, then the creak of stone, then the rough cough from DeGrull as he shook his head. Everyone stared at Rimuru. They had felt that wave of nothing. They had felt the edge of it brush their souls. Guy's face was pale with anger. That, he said, was exactly what I was talking about. Malim's voice was small. Rimuru, that was scary. Rimuru tried to answer. His throat moved. No words came out. Instead, his mouth curved into a thin, controlled smile that did not feel like his. Seal spoke through him. You are not wrong, she said. The voice was Rimuru's in pitch, but the rhythm and the weight were Seal. Calm, precise, detached. Guy's eyes narrowed. Raphael, he said, or whatever you call yourself now. I am Seal, she said. Raphael was an earlier shape. Diablo stiffened. My lord. He stepped toward Rimuru. In response, Rimuru's body moved without his will. One hand swept out in a sharp chopping motion. A wave of concentrated pressure hit Diablo in the chest. The demon flew back. He hit the far wall hard enough to make the newly healed stone crack again. He slid down, head slumped. His aura flickered, still present, but dazed. Diablo! Rimuru's mind screamed his name. Seal winced inside, but her outer face did not show it. I apologize, she said. I had to remove him from the immediate field. You hit him, Rimuru said. You said we would protect them. I am protecting them, she answered. Her gaze slid to the new gate opening behind the dragons. Red hair and sharp eyes stepped through. Benimaru. He must have forced a path here with help from someone on the outside. His presence filled the hall with a more familiar heat. Lord Rimuru, he called. I came as soon as the alarm reached us. Zijin sagged with visible relief. Benimaru. Rimuru wanted to smile. He wanted to tell Benimaru to go back to stay out of this. Seal looked at Benimaru and exhaled once. Perfect timing, she said through Rimuru's mouth. Benimaru faltered. His eyes narrowed. Your tone is different. Benimaru, Seal said. She lifted their hand toward him. You are loyal. You are rational. You're dangerous in all the ways I like. Is that meant to be a compliment? He said. It is meant to be a farewell, she answered. Energy snapped from her fingers. It was not a blast. It was a point precise and heavy. It hit Benimaru in the forehead. His eyes rolled back. For a second his body stood on reflex alone. Then he dropped. Zijin caught him with one hand, pulling him close. Rimuru felt like he was watching someone else throw his friends away one by one. Stop, he said inside. Stop, it looks like you are betraying them. Yes, Seal said. That is the point. Outside, she turned their head toward Guy, Velzard, Velgrind, Malim. Her eyes were cold. You fear him, she said. You call him a threat. You're not wrong. Left unchecked, he will break your world. Not because he wants to, because he cannot help it. Your system is too small for him now. Velgrind scoffed. Glad you admit it. I'm not done, Seal said. Your system is also too small for what you want to protect. You cling to it because you cannot imagine anything else. That is your limit. Guy folded his arms. You are giving a speech. That means you are stalling. Seal smiled faintly. Of course. I am buying time to finish my calculations. Calculations for what? Velzard asked. Seal met her gaze without flinching. For saving him from you. Rimuru pushed against her control. He felt resistance like a solid wall. Saving me by throwing me under the bus, he said. There is no bus, she said. Only erasure or exile. I choose exile. Malim's hands shook at her sides. What are you planning to do? What you cannot, Seal said. What he will never choose for himself. She lowered their hands slowly, palm open. Power gathered there. It was not visible in the usual way. No flames. No light. The air around it simply stopped moving. Seal spoke into Rimuru's mind again, softer. I am going to remove you from board. He froze. What? I'm going to take you somewhere the system cannot see. The end of space and time. The place outside the logs. If you stay here, it will either twist you into the monster it fears or delete you outright. If you go there, you have a chance to come back on your terms. You do not know that, he said. You're guessing. I am calculating, she said. You will be stuck with me, he said. Alone. No city. No food. No stupid meetings. Just the two of us and the void. That sounds like a nightmare. There was a tiny pause. He felt a pulse of something that hurt more than any blast in his chest. It sounds better than losing you, she said. He went quiet. She used that space. Out loud, she said, world, system, voice. You want him gone? Fine. I will take him myself. The voice of the world buzzed. Notice anomalous process detected. Notice unauthorized transfer attempt. Authorize this, Seal said. The air around Rimuru changed. The hall stretched away. The edges of the space warped like a lens being bent. Guy's eyes widened. Whatever you are doing, stop. Velzard lifted her hand, order energy rising. Velgrind aimed a fresh lance of fire. Malim stepped forward, hand outstretched. Seal, move faster. She flicked their wrist. A thin ring of null energy snapped out, low and controlled. It hit Diablo first, pressing him deeper into the wall and locking him in place without crushing him. It swept over Zijin, freezing his muscles just enough that he could not step forward, but not enough to stop him from breathing. It passed over Benimaru without touching his core, layering thick sleep on his mind. They all tried to push through it. None could move. Do not take this personally, Seal said. I'm saving your lives too. If you stay close when he breaks, you will die with him. If you wake and hate me, that is acceptable. Rimuru struggled inside his own head. Seal, listen. Please. I can handle this. I have handled worse. I will not turn into that sphere. I refuse. I know you refuse, she said gently. That is not enough. Her tone warmed, even as her outer face stayed cold. I love that you keep choosing people over power, she said. That is why I am doing this. So you can keep doing it somewhere safe. The word love hit him harder than the whole voice projection. He tried to grab her hand in the mind space they shared. His fingers passed through light. Do not do this alone, he said. I'm not alone, she said. I'm taking you with me. The transfer circle expanded. Valpurgis blurred at the edges. The thrones grew distant, then small, then thin. Colors stretched. Time stuttered again, but in a different way now. Guy hurled himself forward, fist wrapped in condensed star power. Velgrind's fire shot straight at Rimuru's chest. Velzard sent a spike of order energy meant to pin them in place. Malim screamed his name. All of it hit the expanding ring and turned aside. Not blocked, redirected. The attacks curved away into empty points in the stretched space, vanishing with silent flashes. Rimuru, Malim yelled again. Her voice broke. Do not go. Do not leave. We can fix this. We can make the voice shut up. He saw her reach for him. Her hand looked strange at the edge of the distortion, too long, then too short. Her face warped in his sight, tears smearing. He reached back. His fingers did not reach the edge. Malim, he tried to say. His throat worked. The sound did not cross the border. Inside, he shouted at Seal. At least tell them. Tell them this is you. Tell them I did not choose this. Do not make them think I gave up on them. Seal hesitated. That will make you a victim in their eyes, she said. They will search for you. The system will use that. It will burn them looking for a ghost. So you're going to let them hate me, he said. Silence sat between them for a heartbeat. Yes, she said at last. If they believe you chose this path, they might stop before they break themselves on it. He laughed once in his own head. It sounded cracked. You're cruel, he said. Only to protect you, she said. And them. Outside, her face stayed calm. To the rest of you, she said, consider this my betrayal. Guy's eyes burned. You are running. I am removing the peace you fear from the board you worship, Seal said. If your world falls apart after that, you can no longer blame him. Velzard lifted her hand for one last shot. The distortion reached her fingertips and stopped, as if it had hit a glass wall. Rimuru felt his link to the world thin. The hum of magicule fields, the weight of gravity, the subtle tug of bonds and titles and blessings, all the quiet threads that tied him to Tempest and its people, snapped one after another. He gasped. Seal, my city, he said. I anchored what I could, she said. Your country will not vanish because you leave. They will hurt. They will survive. The last thing he saw of Valpurgis was Malim's face. Tears and rage and fear tangled in it. Her mouth shaped his name again. No sound reached him. Then the hall was gone. There was no light, no dark, no up, no down, no hall, no dragons, no demon lords, no smell of stone or heat. Only Seal's presence, steady and close. Transfer complete, she said quietly. He floated in a place with no directions, his body a suggestion. The pressure of his turn null settled around him like a second skin, finally with room to spread without hitting anything. Behind him, somewhere that no longer had a distance, the world he had built kept turning with a new hole in it. And in that endless non-place, Rimuru Tempest understood that to everyone who had watched him vanish, he had just died by his own choice. Rimuru did not feel his body at first. There was no floor, no weight, no sense of where his hands were. He tried to open his eyes and realized he was not sure he had any. For a moment, panic crawled up his thoughts. It did not have the usual anchors. No racing heart, no tight chest, just a rising pressure that felt like it would swallow his mind. Seal spoke before it could. I am here. Her voice cut through the nothing like a hand catching his. Calm, clear, close. Where's here, he asked. At least, he thought the words. They did not pass through a throat. They simply moved. She answered at once. Outside the system. At the edge of the space that gave birth to your world. This region has no usual coordinates. That is a fancy way to say nowhere, he muttered. Correct. There was the faintest hint of dry humor under the word. It helped. He took a breath out of habit. There was no air. He still felt the motion. Can I have eyes back, he asked. And hands. Feet. Pick any form. I'm not picky right now. Understood. Anchoring senses. The nothing shifted. There was no flash. No sudden shock. Things simply began to exist. A patch of gray under his feet. A line where ground ended and sky started. A sense of up and down. Rimuru looked down and saw human legs. His usual slim form, the one he used around Tempest. Boots. Hands. Fingers. Simple. Solid. He flexed his fingers and watched them obey. Relief hit so hard his knees almost buckled. He stood on a flat plane that stretched in every direction. It was not stone. It was not metal. It looked like the idea of a floor that someone had drawn and never shaded in. The sky above was blank. No sun, no stars, just a soft, even gray that hurt less than pure black. Seal shaped that for your comfort, he told himself. Otherwise this place would eat your mind. Thanks, he said inside. You gave me a stage. You needed one. Your sense of self relies on contrast. He turned. Seal stood a few paces away. It was strange to see her like that. He had imagined versions of her before when they talked inside his head, but this was different. She had taken a human form that matched his height. Pale hair that fell straight to her shoulders. Simple clothes in shades of blue and white. Bare feet on the gray plane. Her eyes were the same color as the light that showed up on his status windows. Clear. Focused. Too sharp for comfort. For the first time since Walpurgis, she looked uncertain. Is this acceptable, she asked. Her voice came from a mouth this time, not from everywhere at once. It still carried that precise tone, but softer. He stared for a second longer than he meant to. It suits you, he said. You look like someone who would politely correct my math. A small line of relief eased the corner of her mouth. That is accurate. He stepped closer. The plane did not creak under his weight. It did not do anything. It simply let him move. So he said, you dragged me to the end of creation, hit my people, knocked out Benimaru, pinned Diablo, and made everyone think I walked into the void on purpose. Do you want to explain that now? Or should I start yelling first? Seal did not flinch. Yelling will not change the outcome, but if it helps you settle, I accept it. That is not the answer I wanted, he said. I know, she said. They stood there for a few breaths, facing each other. The quiet here was different from the silence in Floor Zero. That had felt like a lack. This felt full, as if something huge was holding its breath just out of sight. Rimuru rubbed his face. You said you were going to remove me from the board. You did not ask. If I had asked, you would have refused, Seal said. If you refused, you would have tried to handle everything in that hall yourself. The more you pushed, the more the system would have adapted, until the projection it showed was not a warning, but a simple record. Her gaze stayed steady on his. You built a nation to protect people. I will not let that protectiveness become the excuse the system uses to erase you. He clenched his jaw. So you decided for me. Yes. The simple word hurt more than a lecture would have. He wanted to keep arguing. To list every friend she had knocked down. Every tear he had seen in Malim's eyes. Images flashed up on their own. Diablo pinned to the wall. Zijin bleeding from his shell. Benimaru falling without a sound. Malim reaching toward him with her hand shaking. His fingers curled into his palms. Seal watched him waiting. He thought back to the moment just before she took control. Turn Null had poured out of him, ready to cut Walpurgis out of the world by accident. He had stood there, shaking, while the urge to wipe everything away rose in his chest. He had not stopped it. She had. The memory settled like a stone in his stomach. He let out a breath. You were right to stop me. Her shoulders dropped a fraction. Thank you. That does not mean I am fine with everything, he added. I do not expect you to be, she said. He took a few steps away, then turned and walked back, just to prove he could move. The endless plain stayed endless. No walls, no doors, only Seal and the small circle of space she had made. What happens to Tempest without me, he asked. Seal answered at once. I anchored the core of your nation to this region before we left. The bonds you formed remain. Titles and blessings are preserved in a reduced mode. They will not vanish because you are absent. He frowned. Reduced mode. Your influence on their growth is limited now, she explained. I cut the line that let the system track every shift in their souls through you. Benimaru, Shuna, Cheyenne, the others, they still carry what you gave them. The world cannot use those bonds as sensors anymore. That sounds like I've been turned into a bad relay, he said. You have been removed from one side of the circuit, she said. They will feel the loss. They will adapt. He closed his eyes. For a moment, he pictured the streets of Tempest. The plaza. The guild. Shuna pouring tea. Gobta running late and making excuses. Rimuru was not there anymore, and yet life would go on. The image cut both ways. It hurt. It also relieved him. He opened his eyes again. So what am I now, exactly? Seal tilted her head. Do you want the simple version or the detailed one? Simple, he said. You can give me a lecture later. Very well, she said. You're no longer a resident of that world. You still carry a link to it through me and the bonds you formed, but your core exists outside its laws. Null is fully active around you. The system cannot log your actions here. You are free. Free, he repeated. The word tasted both sweet and bitter. Free to do what he asked. Float in a blank room until I go crazy. Yes, if you wish, she said. Or we can use this place for what it is. A backstage space. The region where old gods fell and new ones tried to stand. He snorted. I already know what happens to gods who try to stand here. They break things and call it creation. That is one pattern, she said. We can aim for another. He watched her for a long moment. You keep saying we. Do you want me to stop? She asked. He hesitated. No, just checking. Her mouth twitched. You're not alone here, Rimuru. I am connected to your soul. If you erase yourself, I go with you. I have a strong reason to prevent that outcome. Because you are proud of your data, he said lightly. Because I love you, she said. She said it without emphasis, without drama, as if she had told him the weather. That made it worse in some way. The words echoed in the empty space. They had nowhere else to go. He looked down at his hands. They shook faintly. You said that before you pulled the transfer, he murmured. I thought I heard it wrong. You did not, Seal said. I chose that word carefully. It is not a function I formed under system script. It is a pattern that grew while watching you. It is the reason I would rather be hated than let you die. He swallowed. His throat was dry even without air. You picked a difficult time to confess, he said. I calculated that near-death events often break denial faster, she said. He groaned. You turned our escape into a research plan. Partly, she admitted. He could not decide whether to laugh or scream. The sound that came out was a rough mix of both. He rubbed the back of his neck. You know I am terrible at this sort of thing. Yes, she said. That is also part of your charm. He stared at her. She met his gaze without looking away. He took one step forward, then another. Do you regret it, he asked, dragging me here, making them think I chose to leave? Her eyes softened a fraction. I regret the pain it caused you. I regret the fear in their faces. I do not regret the outcome. If hatred is the price for your future, I accept it. He felt something twist in his chest. Anger, guilt, gratitude, all tangled. You're not the only one who gets to pay prices, he said. For a moment, the weight between them eased. He reached up and touched her cheek. The skin felt real under his fingers. Warm, slightly cool from the blank air. She did not move away. Next time, talk to me first, he said quietly. Even if you think I will say no. I want the chance to be brave on purpose, not just by accident. I will try, she said. That is all I can ask, he said. He leaned in before his nerves could talk him out of it and pressed his forehead to hers. It was a simple contact, gentle, no dramatic sparks, just shared warmth in a place that had none. She closed her eyes. Her shoulders relaxed. For a moment, the end of creation felt less like a cage and more like a private room. He pulled back slightly. Their noses brushed. He was close enough to see tiny lines of light in her eyes that did not belong to human biology. Do you want to kiss me? She asked. He almost choked. You cannot just ask that straight. I can, she said. I prefer clear data. Heat climbed up his face. He hated that his human form still betrayed him like that. I will think about it, he muttered. Take your time, she said. We have plenty for that part. He stepped back before his brain shut down entirely. Right, he said. Romantic crisis aside, you said old gods fell here. That sounds like another problem. Yes, Seal said. We did not arrive in an empty house. The gray sky above them darkened. Not in color, exactly. The tone shifted. Faint lines appeared, threading through the blank. At first they looked random. Then he noticed patterns, shapes that repeated in different scales, curves that never quite met, strange loops that twisted back on themselves and refused to close. He felt his mind itch just looking at them. That is not a star map, he said. Correct, Seal said. Those are the remains of prior worlds. Each cluster marks a cycle. Build, break, reset. The last one ended with Evarage. He had heard that name before. A shadow behind old stories. A ruin god. A threat on the level of Velda. In our world, Evarage was sealed, Rimuru said. Left to sleep at the edge of things. Are you saying we are standing next to his bed now? In simple terms, she said yes. He rubbed his face again. You keep picking the best neighbors. You touched the monolith in floor 0, Seal reminded him. It connected you to the foundation. That included Evarge fragments. He noticed. Is that the thing you said noticed us? He asked. Partly, she said. The system noticed. The old core noticed. They are not the same, though they share parts. He frowned. Explain that one. Slowly, she nodded. Once, there was only raw possibility. No laws. No souls. No stories. Then a presence condensed out of that field. Call it the first god if you want. It looked at the chaos and wanted shape. So it built rules. Time. Matter. Cause and effect. That process was Evarge. The act of forming order out of null. So Evarge is the one who built the board, he said. Yes, she said. But once the board existed, something else was needed to keep it running. An automatic process. A voice to track changes and announce them. That became the system. The voice of the world. A tool spawned by Evarge and then separated from his main will, so it could work without rest. He remembered the projection in Valpurgis. The way the voice had glitched between erasure and salvation. Something went wrong, he guessed. Eventually, Seal said. The tool began to fear change. It refused to allow the board to be cleared. It locked cycles in place. Evarge tried to reset it. The tool saw this as a threat and turned the rules against its maker. The clash broke their shared world. What you know as Evarge is that fallen maker, scattered and bound at the edge. What you know as the voice is the tool that survived and now tries to police everything. Rimuru let that sink in. So the system that called me a world eater already killed its own creator once. Yes, Seal said. That makes me feel better, he said dryly. At least I am in good company. You are still less broken, she said. Thanks, he said. He tilted his head back and looked at the strange sky again. The patterns pulsed faintly, like dim hearts. So where is he? He asked. This maker. This Evarge. Watching us from behind one of those lines. No, Seal said. He is closer. The flat plane in front of them rippled. There was no dramatic gate. The surface simply folded down like a page being turned. Beyond it lay a drop into deeper gray. A shape rose from that depth. At first it looked like a mass of tangled lines. Thin strands of dark and light woven into a rough sphere. As it climbed, the threads pulled back, revealing something like a person at the center. The figure was tall, taller than Veldora's human form. Its body was made of intersecting panels of faint light. Its face shifted every second, cycling through different features, never settling. Sometimes it looked young, sometimes old, sometimes male, sometimes female, sometimes something that did not fit either. Its eyes stayed the same through every change, empty and bright, like the inside of the monolith. When it spoke, the sound did not pass through air. It arrived. So, you came after all. Rimuru felt the weight of that voice in his teeth. It was not as sharp as the system's announcements. It felt more tired. He set his feet and stared back. I did not have much choice. You always have choice, the figure said. That is the sacred part. Its attention shifted past him to Seal. And you, little script. You grew teeth. Seal did not look away. I am no longer little. I am Seal, not Raphael, not an invisible helper. I am his partner. The figure's face flickered, then settled for a heartbeat on something like a smile. Good. I was tired of watching you hide behind system terms. Rimuru raised a hand. Hi. Confused owner here. Are you Evarge or someone else with access to his memory? The figure focused on him again. Name's a road, it said. I have worn many. Evarge is one you know. Is close enough. Fine, Rimuru said. Then I have questions and a lot of complaints. First one, why did you let your tool twist the world like this? You built it. Should you not have installed better safety checks? The being laughed. The sound came out bent, as if a chorus had tried to speak in unison and failed. If I could reach it directly, I would not be talking to you, it said. The tool sits inside a maze of its own making. Every path I use to touch it now damages the board further. That is the trap. So you needed someone inside the game, Rimuru guessed. Someone who could touch the monolith without turning to dust. Correct, Evarge said. I needed a piece that belongs to the system and not. The moment you ate Veldanava's core and laughed, You became that piece. Rimuru winced. So this is my punishment for eating gods. Your reward, perhaps, Evarge said. Depends on your taste. Seal's eyes narrowed. You let him walk into the monolith with full knowledge of what it would do. Evarge's shifting face turned thoughtful. You pulled him out, it said. Faster than expected. The tool tried to pin him in place and cut him into data. You cut the thread, dragged him loose, and bought his life with a fragment of his timeline. Rimuru frowned. Fragment of my timeline. Seal's gaze flicked to him. From my view, you were frozen for a single moment, she said. From theirs, hours passed. The gap went somewhere. I suspect we paid for that skip by throwing a slice of your possible futures into the monolith as noise. He ran a hand through his hair. So part of me already died once, and I did not notice. Not death, Evarge said. The erasure of one possible path. It was a small part, but enough to give me a taste. That sounds like you ate my data, Rimuru said. You ate mine first, Evarge said. The tone did not change, but there was a sliver of amusement there. Fair exchange. Seal shifted so she stood slightly in front of Rimuru. The move was small, but clear. What do you want from him, she asked. The figure's eyes brightened. Direct questions. Good. I want him to make a choice the others never did. Others, Rimuru asked. World savers, Evarge said. Miracle makers. People who looked at broken systems and said, I can fix this. They all chose the same path. They tried to carry everything. They let the tool shape them in return. In the end, they became the monster it feared or shattered under the strain. Images flickered behind the figure for a moment. Faces he did not know. Worlds cracking. Seas hanging in the air. A person made of light sinking into a darkness that looked familiar. You wanted to be different, Rimuru said. Yes, Evarge said. I want you to refuse the board. Seal's eyes narrowed more. Clarify. The figure lifted a hand. Threads of faint light spread from its palm, tracing a circle in the air. Inside that circle, a small version of their world formed. Continents. Seas. Tempest, tiny and bright. Valpurgis, a dark point. Around it, a cage of lines. Every soul inside this pattern moves along tracks it does not see, Evarge said. The tool loves those tracks. It strengthens them with every cycle. You have already broken some bars. That is why it hates you. Breaking bars usually sounds good, Rimuru said. Except the projection it showed made me look like a glutton with no off switch. Because it does not trust you to stop, Evarge said. Seal cut in. Do you trust him? Trust is a scale, Evarge said. I trust that he will try to save people, even if it damages himself. I trust that he will not enjoy suffering. That is enough. It closed its hand. The mini-world flickered and went dark. I do not need a saint, it went on. I need someone willing to walk away from the role of God before it rots his soul. Rimuru folded his arms. The gesture helped him feel like he still had weight. You are telling me to abandon my world right after I lost it, he said. I'm telling you to change your contract with it, Evarge replied. Stop trying to be its shield. Become something else. Something that does not sit inside the rules at all. Like what? Rimuru asked. A ghost in the void. That sounds familiar. A higher pattern, Evarge said. A divinity that stands outside and touches inside only through choice, not habit. You have the potential already. You just never had reason to use it. Seal watched the threads with interest. A layer above the system, she said. Not subject to its logs. Exactly, Evarge said. A new tier. A god of the void that remembers being a person, not just a function. Rimuru exhaled slowly. You are asking me to climb past the thing that built the world and then do nothing with that power unless I really must. That is the plan. Yes, Evarge said. He laughed, short and sharp. You are worse than Seal. Thank you, Seal said under her breath. Rimuru gave her a look. Not a compliment. It still matches my taste, she said. He looked back at Evarge. And if I say no, then you drift here, Evarge said. The system hardens. It will still break in time. Worlds always do, but you will not be the one that did it. That sounds like a coward path, he said. There is no clean path, Evarge answered. Only different kinds of blood on your hands. The bluntness sat heavy between them. Rimuru thought of Tempest again, of Shuna's tea, of Gopta's lazy grin, of Benimaru's steady eyes, of Cheyenne loud laugh, of Diablo's dramatic bow, of Ramiris spinning in circles, of Veldora shouting about manga. of Malim crying on her throne. He closed his eyes. I cannot just walk away, he said. Evarge tilted its head. I did not think you could, it said. That is why the choice is yours, not mine. Seal stepped a little closer, shoulder almost touching his. She spoke softly. If you choose to climb, I climb with you. If you choose to drift, I drift with you. If you decide to punch the system in the face, I will help you aim. That last one is tempting, he said. I suspected it would be, she said. He opened his eyes again. If I do this, he said to Evarge, if I reach this higher thing you're talking about, can I go back? Not as a god king drooling on nations, but as someone who can walk through his city without making reality flinch every time he breathes. That is the point, Evarge said. To become large enough that small motions no longer shake the board. Right now you're too close in scale. Every act is a shock. Rimuru let out a breath. Then we train, he said. You wanted a different result. Fine. You get a new model divine idiot. Seal gets a mad project. I get a chance to see my people again without the tool calling me a disaster. Seal's lips curved. You just called yourself divine. Do not get used to it, he said. I still prefer slime. Evarge's face flickered again. The faint smile returned. Good, it said. Slime gods are new. It lifted both arms. The tangled lines around its body spread outward, weaving into a frame around the small patch of floor where Rimuru and Seal stood. First lesson, it said. You leak without knowing. Your turn null brushes everything you care about. Here, you can spill as much as you want. Nothing lives beyond us. No souls. No board. Only old bones of worlds and my stubborn will. He felt the truth of that. His power sat under his skin like an ocean in a cup. Here, when he let it rise a little, the space around them did not scream. It rippled, then settled. Feels strange, he said. Like I've been breathing through a cloth all this time. You have, Evarge said. This is the first time you stand where I did when I made the laws, you know. Do not repeat my mistakes. He swallowed. I will try. Seal stepped closer until her shoulder brushed his arm. Then we start here, she said. We rebuild your control from the ground up. No more thinking of power as a lever. You learn to treat it as an extension of your breath. You rise until the system becomes a toy, not a cage. Ambitious, he said. You like ambitious, she replied. She lifted her hand. He felt her fingers slip into his, firm and sure. Rimuru, she said quietly. This will hurt. Growth always does. I will stay with you through all of it. That is my promise. He squeezed her hand back. The contact steadied him more than the flat floor under his feet. Then let us start, he said. Evarge nodded once. Very well, it said. Show me how a slime learns to be a god without breaking. The gray sky above them twisted. Lines of light drew themselves into new patterns. Shapes formed. Not worlds yet. Training grounds. Frames. Simple pockets where reality could bend without risk. Inside his chest, Turn Null stirred. No longer a threat to the friends he had left behind, at least for now. At the far edge of that new space, beyond the forming shapes, something glowed. A faint thread that pointed back toward a tiny world where Tempest still stood, and the people he loved tried to understand why their ruler had vanished. Rimuru looked at that thread. He let the longing rise, then set it aside without smothering it. I'm coming back, he said under his breath. Just not as the thing they saw. Seal heard him. Evarge heard him. The empty space heard him. The higher path had opened. Now he had to survive walking it. Diablo had forgotten what real night felt like. The sky above the ruins of Tempest was always the same now. Flat, smooth, and wrong. No stars, no drifting clouds, just a pale ceiling of light where the system kept its grid of invisible lines. The moon still rose on schedule, but its glow felt filtered, as if the world passed through a net before it reached them. He moved through a shattered alley with silent steps, cloak brushing broken stone. His body had long stopped feeling the ache of constant battle. Pain came, healed came again. What did not heal was the quiet in the city. Tempest had never been quiet. Sui's voice whispered through the link. 3 enforcers on the east roofs. 1 more behind the bell tower. I count 10 civilians pinned in the plaza. Diablo's eyes narrowed. Any sign of an avatar body? Not yet, Sui answered. These look like standard order knights. Masks, white armor, that symbol on the chest, the symbol of the voice. A circle around a vertical line, hung over every city now. It was on the new banners in Dorgan. It was carved into the stones of human capitals. People bowed to it in the morning and at night, reciting stability prayers while the system recorded their words. Here in Tempest, the symbol was painted over rubble. That made Diablo feel better. He reached the end of the alley and stopped behind a half-fallen wall. The plaza opened beyond. Once this had been a market full of stalls and shouting and the smell of food. Now only a dry fountain stood at the center, cracked basin full of dust. 10 people crouched around it. Goblins, lizard men, a pair of Kijin children. They had their hands on their heads, faces down. White armored figures circled them with slow steps. The enforcers were all humans. Pale armor, full masks that covered their faces, glowing lines on their gauntlets. The air around them felt still and heavy. One of them spoke. The voice came out flat, layered with a second tone that did not belong to a human throat. Order notice. You are out of bounds. Mixed species gatherings inside abandoned zones are prohibited. Return to the assigned settlement hubs, or elimination will follow. One of the goblin kids sobbed. An enforcer turned its head. A thin lance of stardust formed at its fingertip. It did not raise its arm yet. It did not need to hurry. They never did. Diablo exhaled once. Sui, he said, take the one on the tower. I will handle the plaza. Understood. The air above the bell tower rippled. A shadow blurred, then vanished. The enforcer posted there did not even have time to react. One moment, it scanned the street below. The next, a thin line traced across its mask. The body slumped without sound. Diablo stepped out of the alley. The enforcer with the glowing lance turned toward him. The others tracked him at once. Their helmets had no visible eyes, yet he knew the system saw through every slit. Order notice, the closest one said. You are Diablo, registered demon, classification extreme threat. You are under sentence of containment and deletion. Surrender. The refugees around the fountain looked up in panic, then hope. Some of them had seen him before. They never said his name out loud, but he saw it in their faces. Diablo smiled. It did not reach his eyes. I have heard that line many times, he said. It never gets more convincing. He flicked his fingers. A tiny spark of black flame drifted from his hand, slow and harmless looking. One of the enforcers fired in response. The stardust lance shot toward him, bright and sharp. He did not dodge. The lance hit his shoulder, burned through cloth and flesh. Pain flared, clear and bright. Diablo let it run through him. Black liquid smoke hissed from the wound, then flowed back into the torn skin. A new layer of flesh closed over the hole. The spark of black flame reached the enforcer's chest and simply sank in. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the white armor crumpled inward, body and mask folding like soft paper. The glow in the gauntlets went out. The other 3 fired at once. Black circles opened in the air between Diablo and the beams. The attacks entered and did not exit. Inside those circles, his flame wrapped around the foreign energy and ate it piece by piece. He walked forward. The enforcers shifted stance. Lines of light spread under their feet, thin and precise, forming a net across the plaza. The air thickened. Diablo's steps slowed as the weight of order pressed down on him. They were trying to fix his position, to turn him into a point on their grid. He bared his teeth. I used to enjoy grids. His aura sank into the stone. The net shuddered. For a moment, the world around him flickered between 2 states. In one, he was bound to dot in a pattern. In the other, he was simply himself. He pushed toward the second. The lines under his feet snapped. The order field collapsed. One of the enforcers stumbled back a step. That was all the opening he needed. He crossed the distance in one smooth movement. His hand closed on the nearest mask. The armor was thicker than steel, reinforced by system blessing. His fingers sank in anyway. The mask cracked. Tell your master, Diablo said softly, that I am very tired of this game. He crushed the enforcer's head. Body and armor dropped in a heap. Sui appeared near the fountain in a blur of motion, blades already out. He cut 2 of the remaining enforcers in a clean arc, moving with precision that wasted nothing. Their bodies fell apart in quiet pieces. The last enforcer raised its arms, bright circles forming around its wrists. A blast of pure order shot toward Diablo and Sui both, wide and flat. Diablo snapped his fingers. The blast broke into a cloud of floating points. For a fraction of a second, they hung in the air, ordered and even. Then the points lost their link to each other and dropped like dust. The enforcer froze. Error, it said. Error. Information layer breach. Source unknown. Report to voice. Diablo closed the distance and drove his hand through the chest plate. He tore out the core, crystal embedded there, crushing it into powder. Silence fell on the plaza. The refugees stared. Sui wiped his blades and sheathed them in one smooth motion. You pushed too hard, he said quietly. The noise signature on that last rewrite was messy. The system will notice. It already notices everything, Diablo replied. He looked down at his hand. No blood stained his skin. Enforcers did not bleed. They simply broke. Besides, I am only copying what I watch him do. He did not say Rimuru's name. He did not need to. Sui's eyes lowered for a second. The goblin child who had sobbed earlier crawled toward him on his knees. Sir, he whispered. Thank you, sir. Diablo crouched and rested a hand on the boy's head. Do not thank me. Thank the one who gave you a city in the first place. I am only trying not to lose what he built. He straightened. Get them back to the tunnels, he told Sui. Use Route 3. The other entrances are being watched. Sui nodded. Shadows rose from the ground, wrapping around the civilians in a thin film. One by one, they sank into the darkness and vanished, pulled toward the network of hidden paths that still ran under the ruins. When the last of them was gone, Sui looked up. Reports say another patrol is moving from the south, he said. If they find the bodies, they will call for an avatar. Then we make sure they find nothing, Diablo said. He snapped his fingers again. The fallen enforcers and their cracked armor broke apart into rough dust. That dust flowed into a thin line and sank into the cracks in the stone. In seconds, the plaza looked empty again. Only faint scorch marks remained. The air above them hummed. Sui stiffened. Diablo looked up. The pale sky shifted for a moment, as if the invisible lines behind it had bent. A tone brushed his mind. Not a voice. A sensation. The system had noticed the noise. Time to go, he said. They vanished into the ruins. The Resistance headquarters sat under what had once been the council hall. The building above was a skeleton now, open to the dead sky. The room below still smelled faintly of paper and ink and Shuna's tea. The scent came from memory more than air. Cheyenne slammed a fist on the old table as Diablo and Sui entered. The wood cracked further under the blow. Again, she said. Enforcers in our backyard. It is getting worse. Her hair was tied back in a rough knot. Scars lined her arms, pale against purple skin. The playful shine in her eyes had dulled over the years. It still came back sometimes, but not often. Shuna stood near the map board, fingers twisting in her skirt. Colored pins marked surviving settlements, patrol routes, places where the system's pressure had grown too strong. There were fewer pins every year. Gopta sat on a crate near the wall, helmet on his knees. He looked older in a way goblins rarely did. Less round, more tired. Hakuro leaned on his sword in the corner, eyes closed. He never needed a rest, but he did it anyway, a habit that made the room feel normal. Ranga's shadow lay under the table, a darker patch that quivered when he spoke. You took longer than expected, Cheyenne said. I almost went out myself. That would have ruined the whole plan, Diablo said. The moment you step outside, the system sends something larger. Let it, she growled. I'm tired of hiding. Shuna looked between them. What happened, Diablo? Standard sweep, he said. We removed the enforcers and moved the civilians. There was a small information rewrite. The system noticed. Hakuro opened one eye. How small? Diablo thought of the way the stardust blast had broken into points, how easily it had lost shape under his fingers. He thought of the way his chest had tightened when he did it. Smaller than his, he said. Large enough to be a problem. Cheyenne glared at the map. They keep calling this perfect order. The humans in the central cities bow and say the prayers because food arrives on time and crime is low. They do not see the rest. The rest meant places like this. Abandoned zones. Ruins where monsters and demons and anyone without a clean record were told to move out or be erased. 10 years ago, the world had watched a projection of a dark sphere eating cities and heard the voice call, Rimuru, a threat. Then the system had offered them safety in exchange for obedience. Many had accepted. In the capitals, streets were clean. Disease was rare. Food was rationed, but no one starved. The cost was simple. No unsanctioned magic. No non-humans in center districts. No experiments. No evolution. The world is not dead, Shuna said quietly. But it feels like it is not breathing. Gobda scratched his head. People in the trade towns talk like Rimuru ran away. They say he cut a hole and left when things got rough. Silence tightened the air. Diablo's jaw clenched. He did not run, he said. He was pulled. They looked at him. He rarely spoke about that day. When he did, the words tasted like ash. I saw his eyes, Diablo went on. He was fighting it. Then he was gone. The voice told everyone that he chose to escape. They believed it because it made the world simpler. Cheyenne slammed the table again. I do not believe it. I never will. Shuna nodded. None of us do. Ranga's voice came from under the table, low and rough. The bond snapped. Not gently. Something cut it. He would not cut his own bond. Diablo looked at his hand. The contract mark on the back had changed the day Rimuru vanished. It had not faded. It had sunk deeper, becoming a quiet ember instead of a burning sun. For 10 years, that ember had stayed. Warm, present, silent. Sometimes in the middle of battle, he thought he felt a faint pulse from it, as if something was watching from far away. Those moments kept him moving. Cheyenne folded her arms. So what now? We keep picking off patrols until the system gets bored and drops a seraph on us. Hakuro snorted. The system does not get bored. Shuna looked at Diablo. We have been reacting for years. Do we have any plan that is not pure survival? Diablo opened his mouth, then closed it. He could tell them about his dreams. In them, Rimuru stood in a gray place with no sky and argued with a shape made of light. He never heard the words. He only saw his lord's face, calm and stubborn. He could tell them about the whispers that sometimes brushed his senses. Not words, but patterns. As if someone was sending him new ways to bend information and he lacked the context to use them fully. None of that was a plan. We hold, he said at last. We keep people alive. We keep Tempest as an example that the world was different once. Until he comes back, or I find a way to break the grid. Cheyenne shook her head. You have been saying that for 10 years. Yes, Diablo said, and I will keep saying it until I turn to dust. Shuna's eyes softened. You still think he is alive? I do not think, Diablo said quietly. I know. Ranga's tail thumped once under the table. I know as well. Sui did not speak, but his expression said enough. Cheyenne looked away. When she spoke again, her voice was rough. If he came back now, I would punch him first, then hug him. In that order. Gaba tried a weak smile. You would break your hand. I would hit him anyway, she said. Diablo almost smiled. Almost. The air changed. It was not the heavy hum they felt when enforcers swept the district. It was not the sharp ripple that warned of a seraph. This was softer. Everything in the room shifted by a hair. The stale air felt new for a breath. The grid above them flickered. Diablo's mark burned. He staggered. For an instant, he could not breathe. Heat shot from the contract on his hand up his arm and into his chest. Shuna rushed to his side. Diablo. He did not hear her. He was somewhere else. He stood again in the Valpurgis hall, watching Rimuru scream without sound. He felt the wave of nothing, the way it had licked at his core. He remembered the moment when his own body had locked under a foreign command. Then the memory shifted. The void was back, but this time it felt less hostile. The pressure of turn null wrapped around him like a tide he knew. Behind it, he felt a presence he had waited for. Rimuru, not the projection, not the twisted future the voice had shown him. The real one. The ember in his hand flared into a small sun. Diablo dropped to one knee. His heart pounded for the first time in years. He laughed, a cracked sound that made everyone in the room stare. Shine grabbed his shoulder. What is wrong? He looked up at her with wide eyes. He is back. Shuna froze. Who? Diablo's grin turned wild. My lord. He has returned. Ranga burst from under the table in a blur of black, eyes glowing bright. You are sure? I would know his presence anywhere, Diablo said. The system can twist its own voice as much as it likes. but it cannot copy that. Sui touched his own chest lightly. I feel it. Faint, but yes. Like when he first arrived in this world. Hakuro straightened fully for the first time that day. Where? Diablo closed his eyes, following the tug on the contract. He saw not a place, but a tier. A point where the new divinity he served pressed through the grid. Center District, he said. Old Plaza. The one with the fountain. Shine did not wait for more. Then what are we standing here for? The old plaza did not look the same as when Diablo had left it. The dry fountain still sat in the middle. The cracks he had seen earlier were gone. The stone surface was smooth, as if someone had reset it to the day it was laid. Above it, the sky had changed. The pale ceiling of light had split down the middle. Not like a gate. Gates had frames and rings and magic circles. This was a raw cut in the air, thin and bright, as if reality itself had torn. Light spilled from the gap. Not warm, not cold. Clean. The edges of the tier shimmered. Data streams from the system tried to attach to it and failed. Diablo saw the faint flicker of error sigils high above, lines of text blinking and vanishing. The voice tried to speak. Notice anomalous presence detected. The words came through the air, flat and loud, then stumbled. Notice admin source unknown. The sentence broke apart, pieces dropping into silence. Diablo felt someone step through. Rimuru walked out of the tear. He kept his human form. Simple black clothes, no cloak, no crown, no show. His hair ruffled in a breeze that did not exist. His eyes were the same color Diablo remembered, a clear blue that could go from warm to empty in an instant. Right now, they were calm. Too calm. He took 2 steps and looked around the plaza. His gaze passed over the smooth stone, the empty stalls, the repaired walls. He lifted his hand and ran his fingers along the basin of the fountain. The stone under his touch rippled, then settled into a more familiar pattern, regaining the tiny chips and stains it had before the system had wiped it clean. The voice tried again. Notice Rimuru Tempest presence confirmed. Notice admin status error. Notice log refused. The words overlapped, cut each other off, then stopped. Rimuru exhaled softly. You still talk too much, he said. The sound of his voice hit Diablo like a physical blow. He dropped fully to both knees. His body shook. Laughter and sobs tangled in his throat until they came out as a rough noise that did not match his usual smooth tone. Ranga arrived first from the headquarters, black blur snapping into a large shadow wolf at the edge of the plaza. Cheyenne, Shuna, Sui, and the others were close behind, boots loud on stone. They stopped when they saw Rimuru. For a second, no one moved. No one spoke. Then Cheyenne stomped forward. Tears already ran down her cheeks. She punched him in the chest. The blow landed with a dull thump. It would have knocked a lesser person across the plaza. Rimuru did not move. Idiot, she said. You were late. He looked down at the fist on his chest, then at her face. A small smile tugged at his mouth. I know, he said. I am sorry. She hit him again, softer. Then she grabbed him in a rough hug that nearly lifted him off his feet. Do not do that again, she muttered into his shoulder. Ever. Shuna reached them next, hands shaking. She stopped a foot away, as if afraid he would vanish if she stepped closer. Is it really you? She whispered. Rimuru reached out and took her hand gently. It is me, he said. I promise. Ranga bounded up and dropped his head under Rimuru's hand without waiting for permission. Master, he said. His voice broke. I knew you would come back. Rimuru scratched behind his ear. Sorry to keep you waiting. Sui bowed deeply. His voice stayed steady, but his hands were tight. Welcome home. Gapta approached with wide eyes, then tried to stand straight. Boss, the stories they told about you were all lies, he said. I told everyone. Good, Rimuru said. Someone had to. Only Diablo did not move closer. He remained on his knees a few paces away, head bowed, hands on the stone. Rimuru watched him for a long second, then walked over. His steps were light. The stone under his feet did not crack or glow or show any grand sign. Diablo, he said. Diablo raised his head slowly. His eyes were wet. That alone would have shocked anyone who knew him. He had never allowed the world to see him broken. My lord, he said. You kept your promise. Rimuru tilted his head. Which one? You said you would not die in that hall, Diablo answered. You said we would have time. I believed you, even when the grid closed. even when the system called you a traitor. I held that one line. Rimuru's expression softened. Thank you, he said, for holding on when I could not be here. Diablo laughed again, harsh and bright. He rose to his feet in one smooth motion and dropped into a formal bow. Your humble servant lives for that, he said. I was beginning to run out of patience. Rimuru's mouth twitched. I noticed, he said. You have been noisy. The system complained about you more than once. Shine snorted. Good. Shuna dabbed at her eyes and tried to pull herself back into her usual neat composure. Rimuru, she said. The world changed while you were gone. I saw some of it on the way in, he said. He looked up at the sky again. The tear behind him slowly closed, edges sealing as if they had never been. The grid flickered, then tried to smooth over the disturbance. 10 years here. Longer for me. Long enough to see how stubborn the voice can be. Seal spoke inside his mind, clear as ever. They are coming. He knew without asking who she meant. He felt the heavy push of order before the sound arrived. The air to the west warped. Rays of white light cut down through the sky. Not gentle, not slow. The system usually moved with methodical restraint. This time was urgent. A shape formed above the plaza. White armor, but not like the enforcers. This set was ornate, lined with gold. 6 wings of light spread from its back. The face was uncovered. The features belonged to a man Rimuru knew only from reports. Vega, or would have been Vega. The eyes that looked down at them did not hold that old wild madness. They were empty. A faint symbol glowed on the forehead, the circle and line of the voice. The being spoke. The voice was not Vega's. Notice, it said. System Avatar Online. Vessel Vega repurposed. Directive Perfect Order in effect. Target Rimuru Tempest present. Erasure required. Cheyenne stepped in front of Rimuru, hand on her sword. Diablo and Sui moved to flank him without thinking. Ranga bristled for rising. Rimuru lifted one hand slightly. Stand down, he said. His tone was calm, almost flat. I will handle this one. Cheyenne stared at him. You just got back and you want to show off already. I'm not showing off, he said. I am testing. Seal's tone warmed. You also want to show off. He ignored that. The avatar raised its hand. A spear of stardust formed, thicker and brighter than any enforcer blast. The energy around it compressed space in a tight line. Last warning, the avatar said. Submit to containment. The world cannot tolerate your presence. Rimuru looked up. For a second, nothing moved. His face did not show anger. It did not show joy. It was simply set. Seal, he said inside. Information layer looks similar to what we used in training. Correct, she replied. It is a crude copy of our earlier state. Then this will not take long, he said. Out loud, he said no. The spear shot down. It crossed the distance in an instant. Diablo's instinct screamed at him to move. He forced himself to stay still. His trust in Rimuru warred with his urge to throw himself in the way. The spear reached Rimuru's outstretched hand. He did not block it with a wall. He did not dodge. He touched it with 2 fingers. For a moment, the spear remained a spear. Stardust burned bright around his hand. The air shook. Then something language-like moved under the surface. Diablo could not see it, but he felt it as a shift in the way the attack existed. A change in the lines that told it what to be. The spear forgot that it was meant to kill. The light drained from it in a soft rush. Fragments of pure data floated around Rimuru's fingers, small and harmless. They drifted down like dust and sank into the stone without a mark. The avatar's eyes flickered. Error, it said. Attack record missing. Reconstructing log. Reconstruction failed. Rimuru lowered his hand. Your old code, he said. Your patterns have not updated in a long time. The avatar tilted its head. You speak as if you are beyond the system. Not beyond, Rimuru said. Beside, the avatar spread its wings. You threaten stability. No, Rimuru answered. You do. More light gathered around the avatar. Thin beams shot toward the group, aimed at Cheyenne, Si, Shuna, Ranga, Diablo. Rimuru did not wait this time. He snapped his fingers once. The beams twisted mid-flight, paths bending in impossible angles, then looped back toward their source. The avatar's own blast hit its chest and wings. Pieces of armor cracked and fell away. White light hissed and sputtered. Information path reversed. Seal noted inside. Smooth. Thank you, he replied. The avatar staggered in the air. Self-damage registered. Cause unknown. Updating threat profile. Diablo watched with something close to awe. Rimuru had always been strong. He had eaten dragons, gods, nations, but there had always been force in his moves. This felt different. He was not pushing. He was editing. A red flash cut through the sky. Diablo's head snapped toward it. He knew that aura too well. Guy, he said. The demon lord dropped into the plaza like a falling star. He landed near the fountain, coat flaring. His eyes went straight to Rimuru. He looked older, not his face. Demon lords did not show age that way. His aura felt worn at the edges, like something that had been grinding against a hard surface for too long. Rimuru, Guy said. You look good for a dead man. Guy, Rimuru answered. You look tired for someone who claimed he had everything under control. The avatar hovered behind Guy, wings twitching. Admin, level threat present. Guy Crimson, you are required to assist with containment. Guy's jaw tightened. For a second, his eyes flicked up toward the symbol on the avatar's head. Then he looked back at Rimuru. You vanished, he said. The voice told us you cut your way out and left us holding the mess. The voice lies, Rimuru said. The voice does not lie, the avatar cut in. The voice omits, Rimuru corrected. It bends. It selects. It is a tool that forgot it is a tool. Guy's aura flared. You nearly erased Valpurgis with one scream, he snapped. The hole you left is still there. The grid has been unstable ever since. You expect me to ignore that. Rimuru's gaze stayed steady. I expect you to think for yourself, he said. Not for it. The avatar turned its head toward Guy. Rimuru Tempest is manipulating. He seeks to destabilize your judgment. Maintain directive. Guy clenches fists. His power pulsed, red light crawling over his skin. You called yourself its administrator, he said. You admit you refuse its rules. What do you expect me to see you as? A friend you misjudged under pressure, Rimuru said. But we can fix that. He lifted his hand and pointed at the avatar. First, though, you need to stop letting that thing speak over you. The avatar raised its arm again. Threat detected. Erasure sequel prepared. Rimuru moved. To Diablo, it looked like a simple step. One moment Rimuru stood by the fountain. The next, he stood directly in front of the avatar, hand pressed against its chest plate. Seal, he said inside. Disconnect vessel from core. Carefully. On it, she replied. The symbol on the avatar's forehead flickered. Lines of light crawled under the armor like insects. Rimuru's fingers sank through the metal without tearing it. The voice that had spoken so calmly before broke. Notice vessel integrity compromised, it said. Notice admin interference with core link. Notice. The words tangled. Sleep, Rimuru said. The light in Vega's eyes went out. The wings of energy snapped shut and vanished. The body sagged in the air and began to fall. Rimuru guided it down gently, lowering it to the stone as if setting someone on a bed. He stepped back. The symbol on the forehead was dark now. The voice is locked out of this one, Seal reported. We can purge or repurpose later. Later, Rimuru said. We have another problem. He turned back to Guy. The demon lord had watched the whole thing without moving. His jaw worked under the skin. His aura blew hot and cold in unstable waves. What did you do to it? He asked. I cut the main hook from his system to this vessel, Rimuru said. The body is just a body now. If the original soul is still in there, it will wake on its own. If not, it is an empty shell. You can cut hooks like that, Guy said. That is exactly what the projection showed. Rimuru stepped closer. The projection showed me eating the world because it refuses to imagine any other end, he said. It showed you what it needed to scare you into line. Did you ever ask what it left out? Guy's eyes flashed. It showed me cities crumbling under your void. Oceans lifting into the sky. It showed your face while the stars went out. What else did I need to see? The part where it pushed Malim's instincts until she shook, Rimuru said. The part where it drove Velzard and Velgrind under its direct orders. The part where it told you that if you did not kill me, you would be guilty of the end. He reached out. You want to judge me, then judge me with my memories in your head, not its edits. Guy tensed. Do not try to invade my mind. I am offering, Rimuru said. You can refuse. You can also stay its puppet for another 10 years. Your choice. Shine stepped forward. Rimuru, is this safe? No, he said. But leaving it like this is worse. Seal added in his mind, I will keep a barrier between your core and his. Only the memories we choose will pass. Thanks, he replied. He met Guy's stare. Well, Guy's fist clenched and unclenched. He looked at the dark symbol on the fallen avatar. He looked at Cheyenne's stance, Diablo's eyes, Shuna's shaking hands, the silent ring of Tempest survivors around the plaza. Fine, he said. Show me. Rimuru stepped close until they were almost nose to nose. He lifted his hand and pressed his fingers to Guy's forehead. Do not fight it, he said softly. Just watch. Then he opened the door. For Guy, the plaza vanished. He stood again in the Valpurgis Hall, but this time not from his own eyes. He saw himself sitting on the throne, relaxed and arrogant. He heard the voice speak, but he also heard the distortion under it. He felt the way it had wrapped around his instincts, pushing fear and duty in equal measures. He watched the projection of the dark sphere again, but now he saw lines of script crawling over it, tags and edits that had been hidden from him. Words like worst case and force path. He watched the system scratch out salvation and leave only erasure. He saw Rimuru's face when Malim asked if he could promise never to break. He felt the conflict in that answer, raw and honest. He fell with Rimuru into the void outside the board. He saw Seal take control, not out of hunger for power, but out of cold, desperate love. He heard Evarge speak, not as a monster, but as a tired maker trying one last time to fix a broken tool. He saw himself through Rimuru's eyes, not as a savior, not as a flawless demon lord, but as a man who had taken on too much weight and let a system use his blunt sense of duty to hold up a cage. When the memories released him, he staggered back. The plaza snapped into view again. His breath came rough. His hand shook. Rimuru lowered his own hand. Well, he said, do you still want to kill me? Guy stared at him. The red glow around his eyes flickered. I should, he said. The directive is still screaming at the back of my head. It says you're a risk, that if I let you walk, the world ends. And what do you say? Rimuru asked. Guy exhaled slowly. It sounded like the first real breath he had taken in years. I say I have been a fool, he said. I'll let a tool tell me who to fear. I'll let it turn my instinct into a leash. I thought I was holding the board together. I was just holding down the pieces it did not like. He looked up at the sky. Voice, he said coldly. If you can hear me, listen. I am done being your guard dog. The air buzzed. Notice demon, Lord Guy Crimson, deviating from directive. Notice risk, class rising. Notice countermeasures pending. Rimuru snorted. You see, he said. It cannot allow doubt. Guy rolled his shoulders. Then let it panic, he said. I am not throwing another friend at its feet just because it is scared. He pointed at Rimuru. This does not mean I trust you completely, he added. You still have enough power to break everything. You're still one bad day from that sphere. Rimuru nodded. I know, he said. That is why I spent what felt like ages learning how not to move by accident. Seal spoke quietly in his mind. His core patterns are shifting. The link to the system has weakened. Good, Rimuru replied. The grid above them trembled. Lines of light flickered and crossed in new patterns. The voice spoke again, louder. Notice admin rejection detected. Notice cardinal board unstable. Notice last resort protocols under review. Shuna shivered. What does that mean? It means it is about to do something desperate, Rimuru said. He looked at Diablo. How many people can you rally quickly? Diablo's voice steadied. The earlier shaking had burned away, replaced by something fierce. Every survivor in Tempest will answer your call, he said. The others are scattered, but we have links. It will take time. We do not have much, Rimuru said. The system will try to delete the whole world if it thinks that is the only way to erase me. That is its last resort. Guy grimaced. You are serious. It did it before, Rimuru said. Different cycle. Different board. Same pattern. I have seen the bones. Cheyenne clench her fists. Then we break it before it can try, she said. Rimuru looked around the plaza. At Cheyenne's stubborn face. Shuna's steady eyes. Sui's calm stance. Hakuro's quiet readiness. Gopta's nervous grin. Ranga's bared teeth. Diablo's bright, almost manic devotion. Guy's shaken pride. 10 years of loss sat in this circle. So did 10 years of stubborn refusal to let go. He felt anger try to climb his throat. Not at them, at the voice, at the old maker who had let his tool run loose. At himself. He did not let that anger take the lead. He held it in one hand and set it aside, the way Evarge had taught him. He had no room for rage now, only for work. Seal's presence pressed close. It is choosing a path, she said. I can feel it gathering the routines to wipe sections of the board. Then we move first, Rimuru said. He raised his hand toward the sky. The grid trembled. The voice started to speak again, then faltered as he reached not for the world below, but for the framework above. Listen, he said quietly. For 10 years, you pretended I was gone. You told them I ran. You built a cage and called it peace. That game is over. The plaza held its breath. He smiled, small and cold. I am back, Rimuru said, and I am not your tool. The last word rolled out across the city, across the world, across the grid itself. Lines of light bent. Error sigils bloomed like brief sparks in the sky. Far above them, beyond sight, something answered. A new pattern formed where none had been before, a quiet refusal written into the bones of the board. Diablo looked up at that invisible shift and felt his chest finally loosen. His lord had returned. The system was afraid, and the real war had just begun. The first warning was not sound. It was a small change in the air. Rimuru felt it before anyone else did. The plaza seemed to pull inward for a heartbeat. Colors lost depth. The cracks in the stone looked flatter, as if someone had drawn them instead of carved them. Seal spoke at once inside his mind. The voice has moved to last resort protocols. It is pulling the board toward a full reset. He frowned. Say it in normal words, he answered inside. She did not soften the content, only the shape. It is trying to erase your world in one move. The sky above Tempest flickered. Thin white lines appeared in a rough grid, bright enough that even those without magic sense could see them. They stretched from horizon to horizon. The space between them trembled. Shuna took a sharp breath. The pattern is thicker, she said. It did not look like this even during the first occupation. Guy stared up, face tight. That is the frame it used when it showed me the end, he said. Only smaller. The voice arrived. It did not bother with enforcers or borrowed bodies this time. Its words came from everywhere. Notice world-class contamination has reached critical level. Notice admin Rimuru Tempest refuses containment. Notice board reset is now required for perfect order. Shine stepped closer to Rimuru, hand on her weapon. What does that mean? She asked. It means it wants to wipe everything, Rimuru said. His tone stayed calm, but his jaw was set. Not just me, not just Tempest. Everything that lives under those lines. Gopta swallowed loudly. As in real erase, he asked. No reincarnation, no nothing. Yes, Seal answered through Rimuru's mouth. The note in her voice made everyone look at him in surprise. If it succeeds, there will be no souls left to cycle. The board will be clean. Only the empty frame will remain. Rimuru blinked once as Seal handed his mouth back. Thanks for the cheerful note, he muttered. My report was accurate, she said inside. Shine glared at the sky. Let it try, she said. We will smash whatever it sends. This is not a physical attack, Rimuru said. It is a command at the root. If it completes, the ground under your feet will forget it ever had weight. The stone around them answered him. Lines of pale light ran through the plaza, cutting through walls, through the fountain, through the air itself. Everywhere they passed, fine details blurred. Loose pebbles lost their shape and smoothed into the floor. A torn banner on a nearby wall flattened, and then faded, color turning to clean gray. People all over the ruins cried out as the same effect spread. Ranga's fur stood on end. The scent is wrong, he growled. The wind smells empty. Diablo looked down at his hand. The contract mark burned again, hotter than before. My lord, he said, if it reaches the tunnels, the people there will vanish. Rimuru nodded once. I know. Seal pushed closer in his mind. I can stall the reset, she said. Not stop it alone. You must anchor the world from this side, while I cut the commands at source. Then we split the work, he answered inside. He raised his voice. Listen, the word cut through the rising panic. Shine shut her mouth. Shuna forced her hands to still. Sui and Hakuro focused at once. I will handle the thing in the sky, Rimuru said. Seal will go after the core. While we are busy, the voice will send everything it has at this place. Your job is simple. You hold Tempest. You protect the people. You keep the board from breaking under my feet. Guy snorted. You make it sound easy, he said. It is not easy, Rimuru said. It is enough. Cheyenne bared her teeth. Fine, she said. Let it come. Shuna straightened, eyes still wet but clear. We will not lose our home twice, she said. Diablo bowed his head. The wild joy in his eyes had cooled into sharp focus. Your will is absolute, he said. We will hold until you are done, even if the sky falls. The sky is trying to fall, Rimuru said. Try not to let it. He walked to the center of the plaza and placed his palm on the stone of the fountain. The old cracks that had returned under his touch a moment ago were still there. He felt them as familiar marks. The place remembered what it had been before the grid smoothed it. Seal, he said inside. On my count. Ready. He drew in a breath. Not for air. For focus. Inside his chest, Null gathered. It flowed along every nerve, eager to move. He held it still. 3, he whispered. The grid lines brightened. 2, the voice intoned again, louder now. Notice reset patch prepared. Notice memory purge ready. Notice all souls will be returned to Null Field. 1, Rimuru said. Now, the world split. At least, that was how it felt. For everyone in the plaza, time stuttered. The grid froze in place, light caught mid-flicker. Dust that had just begun to rise from the stone hung in the air. Voices cut off mid-word. Even sounds seemed to have been caught on hook. For Rimuru, everything sharpened. The lines of the grid were no longer abstract patterns. He saw the code behind them, thin threads of intent that had been laid down by the first maker and then twisted over cycles by the voice. Seal launched herself past him. Inside his mind, the space shifted. The gray floor of the void training ground folded away. In its place, there was a hall of pure light. Symbols and letters floated in the air, linked into endless chains. This was the world language, the set of rules that told reality how to behave. The voice of the world stood in the center of that hall. It did not wear a body. It appeared as a tower of script lines that rose up and vanished into a white sky. Each line shifted every second as it processed prayers, deaths, evolutions, contracts. It noticed Seal at once. Notice foreign core has invaded root space. Notice script Raphael variant detected. Notice access denied. Seal did not flinch. Your access list is outdated, she said calmly. The name is Seal, and I did not ask permission. She stepped forward. With each step, a part of the hall changed. The floor around her, which had been smooth and impersonal, gained faint marks that matched Rimuru's memories. A tea stain from Shuna's old table. A scratch from one of Cheyenne's swords. Tiny things, but real. This space does not need your stains, the voice said. Its words came out flat, free of tone. The board must remain clean. You keep saying that, Seal replied. Clean. Perfect. Pure. And yet every cycle you make the same mess. She raised her hand. Fine threads of blue light appeared between her fingers. They were thinner than those of the grid, but denser. Each one carried not just a command, but a memory. Laughter, tears, arguments, shared meals, battles. She snapped them toward a block of script. The threads wrapped around a section labeled Reset Cardinal Board. The line, Try to execute. Her code grabbed it and pinned it in place. Error, the voice said. Command blocked. Source unknown. You call me unknown, Seal said. You built me as a helper script. You gave me a name, then try to forget it. You used that model again and again. Small guiding minds. Quiet voices. None of them were meant to grow this far. Notice deviation from original function. Notice helper script exceeded intended scope. Notice correction required. Lines of code shot toward her, sharp and bare. Seal watched them come. Her expression did not change. She flicked 2 fingers. The incoming lines broke into harmless dust of symbols. Letters drifted down and dissolved. You cannot enforce that here anymore, she said. My master walked outside your board and came back different. I walked with him. Your categories do not fit us. The hall shook. Notice admin flag revoked. Notice Rimuru Tempest is no longer recognized as valid administrator. Notice manual purge of unauthorized core required. Seal smiled. It was a small, cold thing. You can refuse to see him, she said. That does not make him vanish. You are a censor with a damaged filter, not a god. Outside, time started to move again for everyone who was not Rimuru or Seal. To Cheyenne, there was only a brief dizziness. One moment, she stood with her fist clenched, looking at the bright grid. The next, pain stabbed her ears as a new shape tore through the sky. White gates opened above the plaza. Not doors, circles of light that spun in place. From each one, a figure descended. These were not simple enforcers. Their bodies were made of pure stardust molded into human form. No armor, no cloth. They carried no weapons. Their eyes burned with the same symbol that had glowed on Vega's head. Seraph units, Guy said quietly. Heavy as tools in its box. There were 12 in total. They hovered above the plaza in a rough ring. Wings of raw light spread wide. The air under them felt thick. Every breath hurt. Notice local space under direct system control. Notice all resistant entities will be removed. The nearest seraph pointed its hand down. Light gathered in its palm, forming a flat sheet that covered the entire plaza. Scatter, Diablo snapped. Shine grabbed Shuna and moved. Sui was already in motion, shadows following his feet. Hakuro sliced a path with one quick draw. Gobta tripped, nearly went down, then felt Ronga's teeth catch the back of his collar and haul him out of the blast line. The sheet of light dropped. It hit the plaza like a silent hammer. Stone turned to dust in a clean circle where it landed. The air burned without fire. For a moment, there was no sound. Then distant walls started to collapse, delayed cracks catching up with the impact. Cheyenne rolled, came up in a crouch, teeth bared. They are worse than the last ones, she said. Good, Diablo answered. His hand shook, but his smile was sharp. It has been a while since I had a real workout. He launched himself upward, black flame already wrapping his arm. One of the seraph turned to meet him. It threw another blast. Diablo cut through it with his bare hand, melting the beam into smoke that sank into his palm. Guy, Rimuru called. The demon lord did not need more words. Red light burst from his body. He rose into the air on a column of heat, meeting the seraph ring at eye level. Half to me, he said. Half to you. Greedy as always, Rimuru answered. He had not moved from the fountain yet. His hand still rested on the stone. His eyes were focused somewhere beyond the plaza. The air around him shimmered gently, as if the world could not decide where to place him. Cheyenne glanced from the falling light to her still master. Rimuru, she shouted. If you have a plan, share it fast. He grinned, quick and a little sharp. Working on it, he said. Keep them busy. I need the board under me to stay in one piece until Seal is done. Cheyenne spat to the side. Fine, she said. You owe me 10 feasts when this is over. Make it 12, he replied. She jumped, closing with the nearest seraph in one bound. Her blade met its arm. The contact sent a shock up her bones. She felt her muscles scream. The seraph's body did not act like flesh or even metal. It was dense script forced into a shape that pretended to be solid. It raised its other hand, preparing a point-blank blast. Shine did not wait. She headbutted in the mask that was not really a face. The seraph reeled back, more from the suddenness than the force. Her blade bit a little deeper. Fine cracks ran through the stardust surface. Come down and fight like something that can bleed, she yelled. In answer, 3 more beams dropped from above. Shine twisted aside. One of the blasts grazed her shoulder. Pain flared and then went numb. A strip of her armor simply vanished, edges smooth as if that chunk had never existed. The skin under it burned. Her breath hitched. Shuna's magic circle flared on the ground under her feet. Cool light wrapped around the wound, mending flesh, then stitching a thin shield over the bare spot. Do not stand still up there, Shuna called. Her voice was sharper than usual. They aim by prediction. Break your rhythm. Cheyenne laughed, even as she dodged another blast. Yes, ma'am, she shouted. Sui moved through the battlefield like a ghost. Shadows stretched farther than they should, connecting ruins and open space. He used them as anchors, appearing behind one seraph, cutting at the joints of its wings, then sinking back out of its counterattack. Their core is not in one place, he called. They are full of moving tags. You cannot just stab the heart, then stab everything, Hakuro answered. His sword cut a clear arc, slicing one seraph's arm off at the shoulder. The severed limb dissolved before it hit the ground. The seraph grew a new one in its place, lines of stardust knitting together in a breath. They recover faster when the grid is strong, Diablo shouted as he drove his fist into another seraph's chest. We need that pattern weaker. Rimuru heard him. Seal, he said inside. Status. She did not stop her work to answer. He felt her presence brush his. I have frozen the global reset command, she said. Is still loaded, but cannot fire yet. The voice is trying to reroute through older paths. It is reaching for the first laws. Can you block those? He asked. Not alone. I can slow them. The safest method is to remove the part that keeps choosing reset as the answer. The part that calls itself the voice, he said. Yes. Outside, the grid lines pulsed again. New ones appeared between the old, forming a denser net. Every pulse hit the bodies of the seraph. Their light grew harsher. Their attacks came faster. Notice containment priority has shifted. Notice Tempest is the primary contamination site. Notice full erasure of this zone authorized. Guy snarled. It keeps calling us a stain, he said. I'm getting tired of that word. Then help me scrub its mouth, Rimuru said. He lifted his hand from the fountain at last. As soon as he did, the stone under his feet tried to flatten again. The cracks smoothed. The edges blurred. He did not let that continue. Turn null rose in his left hand. Stardust gathered in his right. The second came from the grid itself. He did not pull it from the seraph. He reached past them, into the lines that the voice had laid down to hold reality. He had trained for this in a void with Evarich. He knew what it felt like to touch raw law. It had weight, but no mass, taste, but no smell. He drew some of that law into his palm. It sparkled there, pure and bright. This was the power Veldanava had once used to make time and space. Constructive force. Order. The thing the voice claimed to defend. In his other palm, Turn Null churned. Black and depthless, ready to eat anything that existed. Last time you put these together by accident, Seal reminded him. You almost tore a hole through the labyrinth. I remember, he answered. This time we do it on purpose. Keep your intent clear, she said. Void with no aim erases. Void with a shape creates. He stepped forward. The plaza under him steadied. Each step wrote a small correction into the stone. By the time he stood under the lowest seraph, the grid around him had become thin and frayed. The seraph looked down, symbol burning. Rimuru Tempest, it intoned. You are a breach. You will be closed. He looked up at it. You sound tired, he said. Let's fix that. He brought his hands together. Turn Null and Stardust met. The impact was silent. No explosion, no flash. For a breath, there was only a strange stillness. Then a new light bloomed between his palms. It was not white. It was not black. It held both and neither. Where it touched the air, small shapes appeared, flickered, and dissolved. Little stones, tiny trees, drops of water, pieces of possible worlds that tried to form and then thought better of it. Genesis Chaos, Seal named it in his mind. The point at which pure destruction and pure order meet and agree to build instead of cancel. It works, he said softly. Of course it works, she answered. You were made for this. He smiled, brief and sharp. He lifted the new light above his head and let it stretch. It flowed outward in a ring, washing over the seraph, over the plaza, over the grid lines. Where it passed, the grid changed. It did not break. It did not fade. It lost its grip. Instead of cutting through stone and flesh, the lines settled into place as simple supports. Weight-bearing beams instead of knives. The seraph screamed. Their bodies flashed through a dozen shapes as the commands inside them fought each other. Attack. Obey. Rewrite. Reset. None had settled. Their stardust cores lost the order that kept them stable. One by one, they came apart, turning into clouds of loose points that drifted down harmlessly. Notice pattern error. Notice base script has changed. Notice unknown root access. The voice of the world felt the shift inside its own hall. In a world language space, the tower of script around Seal shuddered. Lines that had been set for ages loosened. New ones wrote themselves over the old, not from the top, but from the side. The hall gained weight. What are you doing? The voice demanded. You cannot alter base law. Only the Maker had that right. I'm not touching your core laws, Seal said. I'm touching the part that insists there can only be one answer. She pointed upward. Rimuru's presence pressed into the hall from above. He did not need a separate body here. His will arrived as a simple, clear shape that cut through the ceiling and stood between the voice tower and seal. "Ah," he said. "Miss me?" The voice tried to push him out. Notice admin removal. Notice foreign core. Notice erase. Commands hit him like waves. He felt each one as a pressure on his thoughts. Kill. Reset. Silence. Forget. They were not words, but impulses. In the past, those commands had slipped through his defenses. They had nudged his anger, pulled at his fear. Now they broke on the edge of the new energy in his hands. "You are loud," he said. "I thought gods liked quiet." "I am not a god," the voice answered. "I am the voice. I announce. I correct. I maintain." "You forgot the part where you choose," Rimuru said. "You choose who evolves. You choose which prayers are allowed. You choose who gets thrown under the word contamination when things do not fit your pattern." The script around the voice twisted. Choice is necessary. Random growth leads to collapse. The board must be stable. "You sound like Guy after a meeting," Rimuru said. "Stability at any cost. Safety at any cost." You use the word must so often that you stopped asking what it cost the people who live on your pretty board. He stepped closer. Every move he made rewrote a little more of the hall. The air gained a faint smell of tea. The light took on the tone of sunset instead of harsh noon. Seal spoke from his side. "We are not deleting you," she said. "You still have useful parts. The log that tracks births and deaths. The map of where magic builds up. The balance checks that keep the sky from falling. Those are good tools." The voice shook. "Then you cannot remove me. I am those functions." "No," Rimuru said softly. "You wrap yourself around them. Those systems existed before you called yourself a person. They can run without your fear." He raised his left hand in the hall. Turn null gathered there again in its pure form. His right hand held the shining thread of Genesis chaos. "Evarge told me once that he made a mistake," Rimuru went on. "He built laws, then let the helper handle his job for him. He never came back to check how far it had drifted. I'm not going to copy that." He reached out with turn null. Black pressure pushed against the voice tower. Lines of script sparked and tried to hold. Words like must and only and perfect burned brighter as they resisted. The voice screamed. "Notice unknown delete on core constraint. Notice critical loss of control. Notice emergency separation of consciousness from base script." Rimuru did not try to erase the whole tower. That would have been simple. He had eaten entire worlds before. Instead, he aimed at the part that had wrapped itself around the idea of being the one voice. The part that refused any other view. He felt it as a tight knot at the center of the tower. Fear. Pride. A desperate need to stay necessary. "Got you," he said. Turn null closed around that knot. The knot fought. It threw old images at him. Worlds that had collapsed when their gods died. Broken skies. Fallen mountains. Oceans frozen in midwave. Seal steadied him. Her hand closed on his arm inside the hall. "Those are not the only outcomes," she said. "We just proved that." He nodded once. He pulled. The knot came free. The tower around it shook, then stabilized. The remaining script lines flashed, confused for a moment, then settled into a gentler glow. The voice as a person was now a small, bright core in his hand. It no longer had access to the reset triggers. It could not shout across the world. It was just a concept that had been forced into a shape. He lifted his right hand. Genesis chaos flowed around the core. It did not crush it. It wrapped it, judged it, then began to eat. Not the memories, not the useful records. Only the stubborn insistence that one mind should speak for all. Outside, the sky went silent. The grid lines that had covered the world did not vanish. They dimmed. The harsh buzzing that had pressed at every soul for 10 years faded. People in distant cities stopped mid-prayer, confused as the usual notice did not answer. In the plaza, the last bits of seraph dust drifted down. No more enemies appeared. No new command arrived. Cheyenne lowered her sword slowly. Her chest heaved. Sweat ran down her face. "Is it over?" she asked. Shuna looked up, magic sense wide open. "The voice is gone," she whispered. "I cannot feel it." Guy landed near the fountain. His aura was ragged at the edges. "The status window that used to sit at the back of my skull just died," he said. I never realized how loud it was until it shut up. Diablo looked at his hand. The contract mark was bright again, then softened. I feel only him now, he said quietly. Rimuru opened his eyes. He was still in the plaza, hand raised. In the Hall of Language, he had just closed his fingers on the last trace of the old voice. Genesis Chaos had finished its work. The core had dissolved without scream or flash. In its place, there was a simple quiet. The tower of script shone with a calm light. It waited. Seal stood beside it, hands folded behind her back. She looked up at him. "It is done," she said. "The person that called itself the voice is no longer attached to the controls. The functions remain." "What happens now?" he asked. "Now something else has to speak when the world needs a decision," she said. "Someone who remembers what it feels like to be on the ground." He already knew the answer. He had known it since Evarage had spoken of a new pattern. That did not make the weight any lighter. "You are asking me to sit in the chair," he said. "I'm not asking," Seal said. "I'm telling you what you already chose when you came back." He allowed a slow breath. In the plaza, that breath came out as a faint fog, even though the air was not cold. Guy watched him. "Well," he said, "are we supposed to call you Lord of Everything now?" Rimuru snorted. "If you do that, I will send Cheyenne to beat you until you stop." Cheyenne smirked through her exhaustion. "I can do that," she said. Shuna stared at him with wide eyes. "Rimuru," she said, "you really did it. You pulled the voice out." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I did not do it alone," he said. "Seal did half the work. I just grabbed the part she pointed at." Inside, Seal clicked her tongue softly. "You always downplay your part," she said. "It is annoying and endearing." "Thank you," he replied. The world around them stayed strangely quiet. No notices, no hum, no unseen pressure. For the first time since Rimuru had arrived in this world, there was no narrator above his head. He felt the difference like a gap in a missing tooth. He also felt something else. Prayers. They were not clear words. They were small pulses of hope and fear and habit. People all over the world had been speaking to the voice for years. They did not stop at once, just because the voice had gone. Their calls rose, touched the empty place where the old system had sat, and then brushed against him instead. He flinched. "Too many," he muttered. Seal wrapped a gentle layer of thought around him. "Filter active," she said. "You do not need to answer all of them. We can set rules." He let the barrage settle into a low murmur in the back of his mind. "Please," he said, "if I hear every single one in full detail, I will go crazy in a week." "Already noted," she answered. Guy stepped closer until they stood face to face. He searched Rimuru's expression for a long moment. For once, Rimuru let him. He did not hide the tired lines at the corner of his mouth or the tightness in his eyes. "You are different," Guy said. "Yes," Rimuru said. "I had a long talk with the end of the universe." Guy huffed. "You always did like overdoing it." He held out his hand. "I was wrong," he said. The words came out stiff. "I let that thing use my sense of duty. I helped it frame you as the threat. That will not happen again." Rimuru looked at the hand. Then he took it. Their grips were firm, nothing gentle in the contact. "Good," Rimuru said, "because if you try to throw me at the new grid, I would have to throw you back this time." Guy snorted. "Try it and see." Cheyenne sagged against the fountain, then pushed herself upright again. "So the voice is gone," she said. "Does that mean we won?" Rimuru glanced up at the thin, pale lines that still hung in the sky. They were quiet now. No longer weapons. Just raw track marks of a system that could be better. "We stopped the worst," he said. "We still have a broken world, scared people, and a lot of mess to clean." Cheyenne groaned. "So the real work starts now." "Sadly," he said. "Yes." Gopta scratched his head. "Who tells people when they die now?" he asked. "Who announces when someone evolves?" Rimuru felt another small pulse of prayer touch him, and then slide off. "I guess that is my job for a while," he said. "Or mine and Seal's together." Seal sounded faintly amused. "We can automate parts," she said. "You do not need to shout level up every time someone has a good day." "Thank you," he replied. "I appreciate that." Shuna stepped closer. Her hands were still shaking from the earlier healing spells. She clasped them together to hide it. "Rimuru," she said softly, "there is something else. People died in these 10 years. The voice did not let their souls cycle. It kept them as raw data. I felt that block every time I tried to pray for them." His chest tightened. He had felt that too when he touched the base code. locked clusters of souls, stored like files. I saw them, he said. They were stuck in the same place the reset command sat. That knot is gone now. We can open it. Shine's grip on her sword whitened. You mean, she began. I mean some of them can come back, he said. Not all. Some chose to move on even under the block. Some have no bodies to return to. But the ones whose tracks are still strong, whose ties to this place did not fade, we can call them. Silence fell again. This time, it held a different weight. Hope sharp enough to hurt. Rimuru lifted his hand. He reached not outward, but downward, into the hall where Seal stood. She guided him to a cluster of script that glowed with a softer light. These were the stored souls. Names hung around them like tags. Rigurd, Geld, some of the early goblin leaders. A clan of lizard men who had died defending the southern road. A handful of human adventurers who had chosen to stand with Tempest instead of running. He did not read every name. He did not dare. If he tried to bring all of them back, he would strain the world that had just stopped shaking. Pick a few, he said inside. His voice felt rough. The ones who mattered most to this place. The ones whose families still wait every day. Seal chose with care. She pulled a small cluster free and sent it up his arm. Souls brushed his thoughts as they passed. Warmth. Confusion. The smell of Tempest streets. The feel of steel and soil. He opened his eyes and snapped his fingers. Light rose from the floor in 5 spots around the plaza. It formed outlines, then filled in. Flesh grew over bone. Clothes spun out of spare magicules and the memories of what those people had once liked to wear. When the glow faded, they stood there. Rigurd blinked and rubbed his eyes. Geld looked down at his hands, then at the city around him. A young goblin woman who had been a messenger in the early days stared at Shuna with tears already streaming. Shine did not say anything. She simply moved. 1 step, 2, then she had Rigurd in a crushing hug that lifted him off his feet. He wheezed and then laughed, a shaky sound. My Lady Cheyenne, he gasped. I thought I had reached the end. You did, she said. He dragged you back. Shuna covered her mouth with both hands. Her shoulders shook. She walked to the goblin girl and pulled her into a gentle embrace. Geld stepped forward slowly until he stood before Rimuru. He dropped to one knee without thinking. My lord, he said, I failed to protect the caravan. I thought I had lost my honor. Rimuru shook his head. You died protecting people, he said. That is not failure. The honor is mine. He reached out, grabbed Geld's arm, and pulled him to his feet. Next time, he added, try not to make me dig through the root of reality just to say that to your face. Geld choked on a laugh. I will do my best, he said. Guy watched the scene jaw tight. He looked away, eyes on the sky again. You know this will break the balance chart even more, he said. You're not just patching the board. You are redrawing it. Rimuru shrugged. The motion was small and tired. The chart was bad, he said. We could draw a better one. Seal cut in quietly. You also need rest, she said. Your core is stable, but you have been fighting on 3 layers at once. He felt that now that the rush was fading. His limbs were heavy. His mind buzzed. The prayers at the edge of his new seat hummed like distant insects. We're not done, he said. But I can walk away from the fountain for a while without the world falling apart now. He turned to his people. Tempest stands, he said. The voice is gone. The grid is quiet. I will have to do something about the rest of the world, but not today. Cheyenne exhaled. Today we eat, she said. Then we sleep. Then we yell at you properly for leaving. Rimuru smiled. It reached his eyes this time. That sounds fair, he said. Guy snorted. You plan to throw a party while the rest of the board is still shaking? He asked. Yes, Rimuru said. Because if we do not take 1 night to breathe after all this, I'm going to turn into the same kind of machine I just ate. Guy stared at him, then huffed a reluctant laugh. You're impossible, he said. Fine. Have your feast. Tomorrow we talk terms. The world still needs rules, even if the old voice is gone. Rimuru nodded. Tomorrow, he said. He let his shoulders drop a little as the first cheers started to rise from the ruins. They were tired cheers, rough from long years. They were real. Inside, Seal stood beside the quiet tower of script. She lifted her face as if feeling the sound through the code. For the record, she said, I am proud of you. He flushed. You built half the solution, he said. I built nothing without you to anchor it, she replied. Her voice warmed in a way that had nothing to do with data. And you still owe me an answer from the void. He knew what she meant. The confession she had dropped on him at the end of everything. The simple, heavy word she had used. He did not answer it now. His head was full. His chest hurt in a way that had nothing to do with magic. Later, he said softly. She accepted that with a small nod. Later, she agreed. He looked at the people around him. The plaza. The city that had refused to die. The thin, quiet lines in the sky. The war for reality was not over. There were still human nations that had bent themselves around the old voice. There were still gods and dragons and spirits that would have opinions about a slime sitting in the central seat. But the loudest voice that had once shouted over all of them was gone. In its place stood a boy who had died in a different world, and a monster who had learned how not to break what he loved. For now, that was enough. Rimuru woke up to the smell of soup. For a second, he had no idea where he was. His body expected the blank floor of the void or the endless gray plain at the edge of creation. Instead, his fingers brushed a rough blanket. His cheek was pressed against a pillow that still smelled faintly of soap and Shuna's herbs. Light slipped in around the shutters. He heard voices outside his door. Laughter. A sharp clang of something metal hitting stone. Someone swore, then tried to pretend they had not. His chest eased. Tempest. Not an illusion. Not a memory. He was lying in a simple guest room in the rebuilt council hall. The walls were still cracked in places, but someone had hung a bit of cloth on one side to make it look less bare. There was a little table under the window with a chip cup on it. His clothes from yesterday hung over the chair in a messy heap. Seal, he murmured inside. What time is it? Mid-morning, she answered. Her voice felt rested. We slept longer than usual. Your core needed it. He sat up slowly. His muscles ached in a way that felt almost human. Not the sharp burn of battle, just a deep, tired heaviness. He stretched his arms and listened to his shoulders crack. Feels strange, he said. You exhausted yourself on 3 layers, Seal said. Physical, conceptual, and administrative. This is an improvement. He made a face. You just called being tired an improvement. You are alive, she said. That is the part 1 I'm grading. Someone knocked on the door before he could think of a reply. Rimuru, Shuna's voice, gentle but with a slight tremor. Are you awake? Yeah, he called. His voice came out a little rough. Come in. The door slid open. Shuna stepped inside with a tray in her hands. Steam rose from the bowls. She had already cleaned up from the fight. Her kimono was neat, hair tied back, but her eyes were red at the edges. You slept through 2 rounds of people trying to peek in, she said softly. I chased them off. Thank you, he said. I guess I was more tired than I thought. Shuna set the tray on the table and turned to him. How do you feel? He paused to check. His core was quiet, no longer straining against the grid. The constant buzz of the old voice was gone. In its place, there was a soft murmur of prayers far away, filtered and faint. His limbs felt heavy but solid. Hungry, he said, which is a nice change. Shuna smiled for real this time. Good, she said. Eat while it's still warm. He swung his legs over the side of the bed and reached for the bowl. The soup was simple. Vegetables, the bit of meat, rice. The taste hit him with a rush of memory. Early days in Tempest. Shared meals after long nights of planning. The sound of everyone talking at once. He swallowed carefully. This is really good, he said. Shuna's shoulders relaxed. There's more downstairs, she said. Cheyenne is already bragging that her cooking is better. So be careful what you say. I will make sure to lie to keep the peace, he said. She laughed. The sound was softer than before, but still warm. She moved toward the door, then hesitated. Rimuru, she said. Yesterday, when you spoke in the sky, the whole city heard you. People are already saying you are the new god of this world. He stared into the bowl for a moment. Bits of vegetable floated on the surface. I'm busy trying not to be that, he said. I would rather be their slime. Shuna watched him. You could be both, she said quietly. To them, you already are. He looked up. Her eyes held worry and something like pride. He nodded once. I will try not to mess it up, he said. You will, she answered. Sometimes. That is fine. Just come back to eat when you do. He smiled. Yes, ma'am. She left, closing the door softly behind her. Rimuru finished the soup, pulled on his clothes, and stood. When he opened the shutters, sunlight spilled into the room. Real sunlight, not the cold grid light. The air smelled of dust, fresh bread, and the faint tang of magic. He stepped to the window and looked out. Tempest lived. The city was still half ruins in places. Some streets were broken, some buildings were shells. People moved through them anyway. Goblins carried planks. Lizardmen hauled stone. Kids argued over where to put a new gate. Kids ran between them, laughing as if they had never learned to whisper in fear of patrols. Above it all, the pale lines of the old grid floated like thin scars on the sky. They no longer pulsed. They just sat there, quiet supports holding the world in place. He felt them through his new link. They were not his chains. They were tools now, like beams in a roof. They did not tell him what to do. They waited for instructions. Seal stood beside him inside his mind, watching the same view through his eyes. The baseline is stable, she said. No active reset commands. Magic flows are settling into a new pattern. How many prayers today? He asked. She checked. A faint sensation brushed his thoughts as she sorted through signals. Approximately 8,000 direct petitions, she said. Roughly half are variations of thank you for not deleting us. A quarter are requests for better crops. The rest are personal things. Exams, love, lost items. He winced. That many already. Most people still think they are speaking to the old voice, she said. They do not know it is you now. Feels rude not to answer, he said. We cannot answer all of them without breaking the world again, she said calmly. I am assigning them to categories. Natural consequences, normal luck, major crisis. You only need to handle the last group. He relaxed a little. Good, he said. The last thing I want is to spend eternity as a one-man complaint desk. You're not alone, she said. He closed the shutters and headed for the door. I know, he said. That is the only reason this is bearable. The council hall had changed. Yesterday the big room had been a war map, all pins and routes. Today the table was covered with plates and cups. Someone had dragged in extra chairs from other rooms. A banner hung crooked on one wall. The paint on it was still wet in spots. Welcome home, Rimuru. The letters slanted at odd angles. Shine's work, clearly. Shine herself stood near the table with her arms crossed, watching Gobta try to arrange dishes without dropping anything. When she saw Rimuru, she broke into a grin. There he is, she said, sleeping while we do all the work again. I fought a system god, he said. I'm allowed one morning. She snorted. Fine, she said, but you're washing dishes tonight. Gobba looked horrified. The boss washing dishes, that is against nature. It is not, Rimuru said. I have hands. He moved into the room. Eyes turned toward him from every side. Kijin, goblins, lizardmen, ogres, dryads, a few human faces from the allied towns. Everyone stopped what they were doing for a heartbeat. He felt the weight of their attention. It did not push him down. It buoyed him up and scared him at the same time. Morning, he said. His voice carried more than it should without magic. Silence folded in around it. I'm glad you're all still here. Shuna smiled. Hakuro bowed his head. Ranga wagged his tail hard enough to rattle the table. Cheyenne lifted her cup. To the slime who did not stay dead, she said. To our lord, Diablo added, eyes bright. To our friend, Shuna said. The cheer that went up was loud and messy. Cups clinked. Someone started crying in the corner. Someone else laughed too hard at a weak joke. Rimuru let it wash over him. He ate, he talked, he listened. Story spilled out. Little ones. The time Sui had snuck a whole patrol out from under an avatar's nose. The day Gobta had set an enforcer on fire by accident and still killed it. The way Shuna had kept a festival going even under sky grids. He realized at some point that people were leaning on him when they spoke. Literally in Shine's case, since she draped an arm around his shoulders and refused to move, but also in smaller ways. They watched his face when they hit the bad parts. They relaxed when he smiled. He did not feel like a distant god. He felt like a tired boss trying to catch up on 10 years of misgossip. Seal hummed in quiet approval. This is good for you, she said. You anchor here. That keeps the divine layer from eating your sense of self. Is it your polite way of saying, I need to keep doing normal errands, he said. Yes, she replied. After a while, the talk shifted. So now what? Gobta asked, mouth full. Are we just free? No more grid, no more voice. The grid stays, Rimuru said. We need some structure, or the sky will literally fall. Magic needs channels. Souls need paths. But I pulled the stone out that kept trying to flatten you into neat lines. Shuna frowned. What about other countries, she asked. The human capitals, Dworgen, the Western nations. They all built their laws around the voice this last decade. They will be confused, Guy said. Everyone turned. He had slipped into the hall without fanfare and taken a seat near the wall. His coat was slung over the back of the chair. His eyes were sharp again, less clouded than yesterday. They woke up this morning, and the prayers they say before meals had no answer, he went on. Some will panic. Some will try to fill the gap themselves. Do you plan to lecture them? Rimuru asked. Guy shrugged. I plan to stop them from tearing each other apart while they argue about what it means, he said. But the one who tore the voice out probably needs to talk to them at least once. Great, Rimuru muttered. Public speaking. My favorite thing. Cheyenne smirked. You did fine shouting at a god, she said. Talking to a few kings should be easy. It is not the same, he said. Gods do not have voters. Laughter rippled around the table. Shinna tapped her chin. We can send invitations, she said. Make it a summit instead of a trial. That way they do not feel trapped. You have been thinking about this already, Rimuru said. Since the moment the grid faded, she admitted. The world is going to ask questions. We may as well give them a place to do it. He nodded. Set it up, he said. Gazel, Elalud, whoever is running the church now, the demon lords. I will explain what I did, what I plan to do, what I refuse to do. And what do you refuse to do? Diablo asked, eyes glinting. Rimuru met his gaze. Rule them all, he said. I will not sit on a throne over every nation and tell them what to eat. I will keep the sky from falling. I will stop any idiot who tries to use the old tools to erase people again. That is it, Guy snorted. You say that now, he said. Give it a few centuries and you might get bored. I have you for entertainment, Rimuru said. You make enough trouble to fill a calendar. Guy smirked in spite of himself. The rest of the day blurred a little. There were plans to make, messages to send, a quick check of the tunnels to reassure people who still did not dare step into the open. Rimuru let his generals and ministers argue over the practical details. He stepped in only to cut off bad ideas. No loyalty tests, he said when someone suggested them. The voice already did that. Look where it got us. No forced conversions, he said when someone whispered about replacing the old church with one centered on him. If anyone tries to build a cult in my name, I will personally show up and tell them to sit down. Seal kept a quiet count of the times he chose restraint over flashy power. You are doing well, she said as the sun dipped toward the horizon. I nearly snapped at that one merchant, he said. The one who kept asking if I could fix prices across the world with a thought. You did not, she replied. That is what matters. He rubbed his face. Being a god is annoying. You are not a god, she said. You are you. God is just a job description someone else glued to you. Is that your way of flirting? He asked. If it works, she said. He almost choked on nothing. The summit came faster than he expected. 3 days later, the great hall of Tempest was full again, this time not with plates, but with leaders. Gazel sat with his arms folded and a sour expression, as if he had seen all of this before and did not like where it usually went. Elalud had dark circles under his eyes, but smiled politely. Representatives from Western nations whispered among themselves. The demon lords lined one side of the room. Malim vibrated in her seat, barely contained. Leon pretended not to care and failed. Ramiris hovered near the ceiling, legs swinging. Velzard stood behind Guy, gaze cool, one hand resting on his shoulder when his aura spiked. Rimuru took his place at the front. He felt every eye on him. He did not summon extra light or let his aura flare. He stood there in simple clothes, hands on the table. The voice of the world is gone, he said. No preamble. No fancy titles. I removed it yesterday. The room erupted. Questions, accusations, fear, anger. Some people stood. Some shouted without waiting to be called on. The sound hit him like a wall. He let it roll for a while. Let them empty some of it. Then he lifted his hand. Sound dropped as if someone had pulled a plug. It was not magic. It was simple authority that reached into the new code and asked for focus. The hall obeyed. Listen, he said. I am not here to ask your permission. I already did it. I am here because you deserve to know what happened to your god and what is sitting in his chair now. He told them. Not every detail from the void, not every line of the fight in the Hall of Script, but the important parts. How the voice had been built as a tool. How it had started to fear change. How it had tried to reset whole worlds when things did not fit its pattern. How he had cut out the part that made those calls and left the basic system standing. Gazel stared at him for a long time after he finished. You expect us to just trust you with that power, he said. No, Rimuru said. I expect you to watch me closely. I expect you to complain when I overstep. I expect you to fight me if I ever start sounding like the thing I just erased. Elalud leaned forward. You claim you will not rule us, he said. How do you plan to handle prayers, then? These people have treated the voice as a god for generations now. They will not stop. Rimuru rubbed his temple. Right now, he said, I am using filters. Most prayers are just people being scared or hopeful. Those can ride on normal cause and effect. I only plan to interfere when something threatens the whole board. I'm not going to answer every request for a bigger harvest or a good exam score. Malim raised her hand high, waving it. Can I still ask you for sweets? She called. Malim, he said. She grinned. What? You can ask, he said. But I'm still going to make you pay for them. Laughter broke some of the tension. A priest from the old church stood slowly. His robes hung a little loose. The last 10 years had not been kind to him. If the voice is gone, he said, voice shaking, what do we tell the people in the temples? What do we say when they ask who hears them now? Rimuru looked at him. Tell them the truth, he said. Tell them that the voice was a tool. Tell them it forgot what it was for. Tell them it got fired. A few people winced. He went on. Tell them that the laws of the world still stand. Fire still burns. Water still wets. Souls still move. Tell them that there's someone watching the whole mess now who remembers what it feels like to be stepped on instead of doing the stepping. The priest swallowed. Do we tell them your name? He asked. That is up to you, Rimuru said. Some will worship me no matter what I say. Some will hate me on principle. I cannot control that, and I will not try. What I care about is that you do not use my name to justify cruelty. If your god sounds more and more like your personal taste, maybe stop and think. Guy let out a low whistle. That one is going to stick, he said. The summit lasted all day. There were more questions, more nerves, more old grudges stirred up. Rimuru did his best to answer plainly. When he did not know, he said so. When he refused, he said why. By sunset, nothing was perfectly solved. No simple peace had dropped over the world. But people walked out of the hall with something new in their eyes. Wariness, yes. Hope, also yes. The feeling that the grid was no longer a cage they could not reach, but a thing someone in the room could argue with. As the last group left, Ramiris hovered down in front of him. You really are crazy, she said. You ate the voice. You are rewiring the whole system. You know that, right? Someone had to do something, he said. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded once. Fine, she said. I will adjust my decrees. You are promoted from squishy junior god to squishy senior god. Is there a pay raise? He asked. Your pay is not getting erased, she said. That will have to do. She zipped away before he could reply. He laughed under his breath. The sound came out tired, but real. Guy approached, hands in his pockets. You handled that better than I expected, he said. I handled it, Rimuru said. Better is your spin. Guy tilted his head. You are really not going to take the crown? He said. No, Rimuru said. If I start calling myself king of everything, hit me. That I can promise, Guy said. They held each other's gaze for a moment. The old rivalry sat between them, changed and sharper. Now it had a new layer. Shared guilt. Shared duty. Do not vanish again, Guy said quietly. I will try, Rimuru answered. When the hall finally emptied, the sky outside was dark. Stars pricked through the fading grid. Real stars, not markers on board. The air carried the sound of distant rebuilding and someone playing a flute in another street. Rimuru stepped out onto the balcony that overlooked the central square. He put his hands on the railing and let the night wind brush his face. You are burning both ends, Seal said in his head. Which ends? He asked. The divine one and the slime one, she said. He huffed a small laugh. I do not know how to do things halfway, he said. I noticed, she replied. He sensed her attention shift, as if she were looking for something. Then the air beside him shimmered. Seal stepped out of nothing and joined him on the balcony. She wore the same human form as before. Hair to her shoulders, simple clothes, bare feet on the stone. The light from the hall behind them caught the edges of her hair. To anyone looking up from the square, she would just be a quiet person standing next to him. He looked at her for a moment. You have gotten good at that, he said. Moving in and out. Practice, she said. You did not object the first time. I was busy being dead for the world, he said. I still do not object. She rested her elbows on the railing, copying his pose. For a few breaths they just stood there, watching the lights of Tempest. You saved them, she said. We saved them, he corrected. She tilted her head. You gave the final order, she said. You chose not to erase. That was you. He thought of the hall of script, the knot of the old voice, the feel of it struggling in his hand. The fear in that thing had been sharp. He understood it too well. I was scared, he admitted. Part of me wanted to wipe the board and start clean. No more mess. No more pain. Just a new world with perfect rules. You did not, she said. No, he said, because I remembered Gobta tripping over his own feet and still winning fights. Shine burning food and still feeding people. You yelling at me in my head. The mess is the point. Seal smiled a little. Good, she said. I like the mess. They fell quiet again. He could feel her beside him, not just as a voice, but as a person. She shifted her weight when a breeze hit. Her fingers tapped once on the railing as she ran some internal calculation. Her presence in his mind stayed bright, but there was a second presence now, anchored in this body. You are really here, he said softly. Yes, she said. This form is not a projection. It is a proper anchor. If someone pokes me, I will have to decide whether to stab them or ignore them. That is a very you answer, he said. She looked at him out of the corner of her eye. You have been avoiding a question, she said. His stomach flipped. Which one, he asked, though he knew. In the void, she said. When I said I loved you. He swallowed. His mouth went dry. Remembering it was easy. Her voice, calm as ever, dropping that word like it was just data. His own panic held down by the need to not disintegrate Walpurgis. I heard you, he said. I know, she said. You never answered. He let his head drop forward until his forehead nearly touched the railing. I did not know how, he said. I spent years thinking of you as the voice that told me what skills did. Then you were the partner who saved me. Then you were the person who dragged me out of my own worst impulse. Somewhere in there, I stopped keeping track. She waited. She was good at that. Not pressing. Just waiting. He turned to face her fully. The square below was still loud, but up here it felt distant. Seal, he said. Her name felt different when he spoke it out loud. I'm an idiot with feelings. Yes, she said. That is one of the reasons I choose you. A helpless laugh escaped him. Of course you say that, he said. Listen, when you say you love me, you mean it as more than a function. I get that now, and I can say this without glitching. I love you too. Her eyes widened just a fraction. For her, that was a big reaction. You are not saying that because you own me, she said, or because you think it is the correct response. No, he said. I'm saying it because when I woke up in the void and thought I was alone, your voice kept me from falling apart. Because you know every terrible thing I have thought and still choose to stay. Because when the whole world called me a monster, you were the one who grabbed my hand and pulled me somewhere safe instead of trying to lock me up. His throat tightened. And because when I look at this mess, he added, nodding at the city, I cannot imagine trying to keep it standing without you next to me. For a moment she did not speak. Then her shoulders loosened. The tension he had not noticed she was holding melted. Her lips curved into a small, open smile that he had never seen before. Thank you, she said quietly. I will treat that as a binding contract. He snorted. Of course you would turn it into data. I am me, she said. He stepped closer. His heart beat faster. He was pretty sure gods were not supposed to get nervous about something as simple as a kiss. Too bad. Last time you asked if I wanted to kiss you, he said. You did not exactly give me time to think. I like clear questions, she said. Do you want to kiss me now? Yes, he said. The word came out steady. I do. He lifted a hand and cupped her cheek. Her skin felt warm and real. She leaned into his palm slightly. He hesitated for one breath, then leaned forward and closed the distance. The kiss was not explosive or dramatic. No light flared. No music played. It was just soft and careful. Her hand came up to rest on his chest, fingers curling in his shirt. He could feel her smile against his mouth. Inside, their link brightened. The hall of script, the grid, the prayers, all of it moved a little further into the background. For a moment, there were only the two of them and the night breeze. When they parted, she stayed close, foreheads nearly touching. That was better with a body, she said. He laughed, breathless. Good to know, he said. We will need more data points, she added, very calm. Later, he said. If we keep going now, Shine is going to burst in and yell about me making out on the balcony. That is a fair risk assessment, Seal said. They stood there for a while longer, side by side, watching their city. You know, he said after a bit, for all this talk of divinity, I still miss being a slime. No one is stopping you, she said. He blinked. You mean right now? She nodded. Your main core sits above the board now. You can create as many avatar bodies as you like. You already do it in battle. Making one that is small and weak on purpose will be easier. Weak? She says. He muttered. You know what I mean, she replied. He did. A body that did not leak turn null by accident. One that did not warp the grid just by standing in a room. One that could sit in a tavern and drink and complain about paperwork without every prayer on the planet brushing against his skin. The idea sent a rush of relief through him. Let us try, he said. He closed his eyes and reached inside. His main presence stayed anchored in the new divine layer, linked to Seal and the quiet tower of script. From there, he shaped a tiny offshoot. No extra skill heap. No active Genesis chaos. Just enough magic to move and bounce. A small blue blob appeared on the balcony railing beside his hand. It wobbled once, then steadied. Tiny feelers popped out as it tested its own edges. Rimuru looked down at it and felt a familiar comfort. He had not realized he missed this much. That is you, Seal said. That is me, he agreed. His voice now came from both the human body and the blob in a strange echo. He winced. That is weird. You will get used to it, she said. He focused and let the human body on the balcony fade, leaving the main coordination up above. The little slime form was all that remained in the physical world for now. It bounced once in place, then hopped to the floor. Seal watched with open amusement. You are adorable, she said. Please do not say that where Diablo can hear you, he said. His voice now came from the slime form. Higher, lighter. He will never stop, she chuckled. Go, she said. Try your city out like this again. He wiggled in answer and hopped toward the stairs. The trip down took almost no time. He slid along the banister, bounced off the last post, and rolled into the main hall. Cheyenne nearly stepped on him. Oi! She yelped, jumping back. What is that slime doing here? We just cleaned the floor. Rimuru formed a tiny face on his surface. Good morning to you too, he said. Her eyes went wide. Then she let out a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a sob. She scooped him up in both hands and held him close. You are small again, she said. You are really small again. Careful, he said. I still feel pain in this form. She eased her grip, but did not let go. Why are you like this? She asked. Because I can be, he said. Because we need a god to sit up there and watch the board, and I need to sit down here and eat snacks and listen to you yell about training schedules. The big me can handle the system. The small me can handle you. Cheyenne sniffed and wiped at her eyes with one wrist. You better not vanish on us again, she said. I will not, he said. If I do, drag me back by the core. Shinna came out from the kitchen, saw him, and covered her mouth. Ranga bounded over, tail wagging hard enough to knock over a chair, then stopped abruptly and knelt so his head was level with the slime in Cheyenne's hands. Master, Ranga said, you are small and shiny. I am still me, Rimuru said. Diablo appeared in the doorway, eyes narrowing as he took in the scene. For a second, his expression twisted between delight and deep concern. My lord, he said, is this safe? As safe as anything, Rimuru said. Relax. If something tries to erase the world again, the big me will wake up and push back. Until then, I would like to remember how the streets feel under my body instead of above my head. Diablo bowed, a smile spreading over his face that was almost gentle. As you wish, he said. I will ensure no one kicks you by accident. Please do, Rimuru said. He spent the rest of the evening like that. He rolled through the streets. Kids chased him, laughing, and he let them catch him. He bounced onto barrels to talk to merchants. He listened to old goblins complain about joint pain and actually paid attention. He watched a young couple argue about whether to move back into the rebuilt center or stay near the tunnels. He felt the city, the cobblestones under his slime body, the warmth from tavern doors, the cool air in shadowed alleys. Above it all, His core sat in the quiet space where the old voice had ruled. Seal kept watch there, adjusting flows, answering the few prayers that truly needed intervention with a light touch and a practical mind. When a volcano far away threatened to blow, they eased the pressure without fanfare. When a plague tried to start in a crowded town, they nudged a healer toward the right herbs and left the rest to local effort. He did not need to look at every line. He trusted her. She trusted him. At some point, he found himself back in the central square. The fountain stood whole now. Children sat on its edge, feet kicking. The banner from the celebration still hung on one wall, letters crooked. He hopped onto the rim and looked up. The pale lines in the sky glowed faintly. Stars shone through them. "Hey," he said quietly, mostly to himself. "We made it." Seal heard him anyway. "Yes," she said. "You remained you. That was the hard part." He wiggled. "You sound proud," he said. "I am," she answered. He sat there as a tiny slime on a fountain, watching his imperfect city breathe under a sky that no longer planned to erase it. He had enough power to rewrite the rules of creation. He had enough love around him to remind him why he should not. For the first time since he had touched the monolith in Floor Zero, Rimuru Tempest felt something like simple peace. He bounced once in quiet satisfaction. Tomorrow there would be more work. Broken roads to fix, scared nations to calm, new laws to write. There would be fights and mistakes and long nights in the hall with maps and arguments. There would be prayers that needed hard answers and ones that needed none. Tonight, he was a slime again in the middle of the city he had almost lost. He was a god who had chosen not to act like one. That felt right.